Chapter 1597. God-slaying formation. Jian Chen had expected this long ago. His face did not change at all, and his chaotic force went into a rampage at that moment. It condensed into a sword qi in his right hand that was the size of a regular sword but radiated a destructive presence. At the same time, a dazzling sword qi was condensed from the way of the sword as well. It fused with the chaotic force and produced pulses of a destructive energy. This was Jian Chen's 8th layer chaotic force and his comprehension of the major achievement of sword origin. Either power by itself possessed a shocking might, so fusing them together made the attack extremely terrifying. As Jian Chen stabbed out, the entire world trembled. The space at the top of the world mountains shattered while the mysterious power that permeated its surroundings completely dispersed. The lightning in the surroundings collapsed before it could even escape from Jian Chen's attack. Jian Chen's strike had exceeded mid-reciprocity and reached late reciprocity. At the same time, the attack contained the power of laws from the way of the sword, so it was extraordinary when compared to the attacks of other late reciprocity experts. The sword qi collided with the pillar of energy, which had been created by close to 40 origin realm experts, and immediately erupted with a boom. The strike was extremely terrifying, causing space to shatter. The entire mountain range violently shook as countless boulders fell. The mountain range they fought on was not just any old mountain range. This mountain range was the shockingly tough world mountains, which did not become severely damaged from the aftermath of that attack. However, the tremors of the mountain caused a huge reaction across the entire world. As the mountains violently shook, the entire world of Forsaken Saints experienced a great earthquake, causing countless mountains around the world to fall and collapse. The ground fissured as well. The world mountains were the heart of the world of Forsaken Saints. Any disturbances at the heart would directly affect the rest of the world. The pillar of energy from all the origin realm experts dispersed as a terrifying pulse of power. All of them could not help but stagger back as the power swept toward them, forcing them to pale as blood flowed from the corner of their mouths. Jian Chen's long hair only drifted in the air. He made his way out of the tunnel step by step, withstanding the terrifying pulse of power. The sword qi in his hand had not dispersed yet, but its flickering light had dulled. All the origin realm experts stared at the unscathed Jian Chen while their hearts churned. Even Ouyang Yongwen, Xiong Zhong, and the 5 other elders were unable to keep composed. After all the origin realm experts from the world of Forsaken Saints had worked together this time. The power they had displayed had approached, or had even reached, late reciprocity, yet such an attack had failed to even leave a mark on Jian Chen. They struggled to believe their eyes. Suddenly, Jian Chen disappeared from where he had been standing. He charged toward Ouyang Yongwen as a blur. His eyes were cold while a powerful killing intent poured out uncontrollably. The temperature of the surroundings suddenly plummeted. Ouyang Yongwen had injured Xiao Ling and Xiao Jin on the Tianyuan continent. He had injured Tai Ta and the White Tiger. Jian Chen's sister had even become heavily injured because of him, and this time in particular, all the origin realm experts on the Tianyuan continent probably would have been slain by him if Jian Chen had not made it back in time. As a result, Jian Chen's killing intent for Ouyang Yongwen was sky high. Get into the god-slaying formation. As Jian Chen charged toward Ouyang Yongwen, Xiong Zhong yelled out. His voice was slightly faster than the time Jian Chen took to arrive before Ouyang Yongwen. Jian Chen brushed by Ouyang Yongwen. As a blur, he sent the sword qi in his hand toward Ouyang Yongwen's head. The sword qi passed through Ouyang Yongwen's head without any obstructions. It did not even manage to draw blood. Ouyang Yongwen's figure faded in front Jian Chen, completely disappearing altogether. The origin realm experts from the world mountains also vanished. Jian Chen no longer stood in the world of Forsaken Saints but in a hazy space. The space of a formation, Jian Chen sighed in surprise as he looked around emotionlessly. The world of Forsaken Saints sure had an impressive heritage, far greater than what the Tianyuan continent had. They even had formations that could be used by origin realm experts. At this moment, a powerful sword qi shot out of nowhere, heading toward Jian Chen while filled with a devastating power. The power contained in the sword qi had reached mid-reciprocity, nearing late reciprocity. Moreover, it was not a single sword qi. After it appeared, the surroundings violently twisted once again, and soon after the first, a second, third, and fourth appeared, until there was 9 of them. Each sword qi radiated with a devastating presence and was equivalent to the first sword qi in terms of power. The 9 strands of sword qi filled the surroundings, trapping Jian Chen. A supreme sword intent radiated out and permeated the space around him. Suddenly, the 9 strands of sword qi all let out a resplendent light before shooting toward Jian Chen, as if they could destroy everything. The power is only slightly weaker than late reciprocity. My chaotic body at the 8th layer is equivalent to the peak of early reciprocity. If I add my way of the sword, there are barely any late reciprocity experts that are my opponent, Jian Chen murmured, feeling at ease. Deep interest filled his eyes. His soul had already reached late reciprocity, so the imperfect space was obviously unable to keep his senses trapped. He had expanded his soul outside and could clearly see the formation. It had been created on an ancient formation diagram. Ouyang Yongwen and the others all used the diagram to form the formation. The moment the 9 sword qi shot out, all the Origin Realm experts taking part in the formation paled. At that moment, a third of the Origin energy within them was drained by the formation. The God-slaying formation was obtained by the Spirit King after breaking through the seal in the very depths of the Sacred Spirit Hall, which he then passed on to them. If they pushed its power to the limits, they could kill gods, but they had not fully grasped the intricacies of the formation yet, and with their limited strength, they were unable to push the formation to the limits, which is why the toll exacted on them was so harsh. They only had enough in them for 3 attacks, and after that, they would be out of power. I refuse to believe that Jian Chen can survive. Although this god-slaying formation is rarely used, it can heavily injure late reciprocity experts, possibly even kill them, said Ouyang Yongwen coldly. As soon as he thought about how Jian Chen had fended off all the Origin Realm experts earlier, he shivered inside. Ouyang Yongwen had never thought that Jian Chen's strength would grow to the point where he could only look up to him after 20 years. We can only use 3 attacks. If we fail to kill him after these 3 attacks, we can only rely on the Spirit King. I wonder if the Spirit King has received our message, Xiongzhong said in an extremely grim voice. Chapter 1598. The Spirit King appears. Many of the protectors and elders became bitter inside when they heard what Xiongzhong and Ouyang Yongwen had said. They all felt extremely indignant. 20 years ago, the overall strength of the Tianyuan continent was nothing in their eyes. If it were not for the extraordinarily powerful divine hall that had suddenly appeared, they would have conquered the other world already, but they would never have thought that their world would actually be forced into such a state 20 years later, where they had to pool all their power into a formation to temporarily stop Jian Chen. If the formation collapsed and the Spirit King did not appear, all of them would probably die. It had just been 20 years, yet the situation had drastically changed. Many of the Origin Realm experts from the foreign world were unable to accept the new situation even now. A huge statue stood in the depths of the 3rd floor of the Sacred Spirit Hall. Its eyes had been destroyed, replaced by 2 sword slashes. A gate that seemed like a space gate was hidden within the statue's eyes, and it seemed to lead to a wonderland. The Origin energy was several times denser than the outside world. A middle-aged man sat in the wonderland and cultivated. His appearance was nothing special, but a terrifying presence, enough to make the world to shake, radiated from him unconsciously. It shot into the air, and just a wave of his hand would have been enough to collapse an entire region of space. His presence was terrifyingly great. The middle-aged man was the Spirit King, the strongest existence that had ever appeared in the world of Forsaken Saints in all of history. At this moment, the Spirit King slowly opened his eyes. His face was neutral, bearing no particular emotions at all. He indifferently glanced at the world around him and only spoke after a while of silence. The laws of this world are incomplete, and there seems to be a hidden restriction. Is it really impossible to reach godhood in this world? Am I unable to truly reach that realm even after comprehending laws and grasping the key to godhood? After 20 years of cultivation, my strength has reached late reciprocity. I have arrived at the very peak of reciprocity, but I still can't break through to godhood. Can I only truly reach godhood after venturing to the saints' world? The world of Forsaken Saints isn't a real world after all. After unlocking the secrets of the Spiritsages hidden here, I agreed to Senior He 2 request and will take the Spiritsages back to the Saints' world, but the tunnel to the Saints' world is in the other world. Since I can't break through, continuing my seclusion is pointless. It's time for me to leave, the Spirit King murmured quietly. At this moment, his face suddenly changed, and with a flip of his hand, a simple medallion appeared. It was rapidly flashing with a dazzling red light. The Spirit King frowned. This is a message of the highest priority. This is only used when something extremely significant has happened. What's happened? With that, the Spirit King vanished from the miniature world. As if he had teleported, he reappeared inside the sacred spirit hall. 9 extremely sharp sword chi condensed around Jian Chen, who was in the formation space. With a single thought, Jian Chen's 9 sword chi turned into streaks of light and shot toward the strands of sword chi that had been condensed by the formation with lightning-like speed. With a boom, a total of 18 strands of sword chi collided and produced a terrifying force. They made the realm of the formation violently shake. The many Origin Realm experts who took part in the formation all jerked. They all grunted while blood oozed from the corner of the protectors' mouths. Quick, the second attack. Ouyang Yongwen was extremely grim and immediately ordered everyone to use the second attack. The Spirit King was not present right now, so if they could not stop Jian Chen, they would all face the true threat of death. All the Origin Realm experts gritted their teeth. A sliver of madness filled their eyes as they channeled their origin energy into the formation for a second attack. However, Jian Chen did not give them any time to form the second attack. He used his chaotic force and way of the sword to condense a sword chi over a meter long and shot it at the space above him. Boom! Jian Chen's attack had reached the level of late reciprocity, clearly exceeding the limits of the formation space. With a great boom, the entire formation collapsed. The formation was destroyed so quickly not because the god-slaying formation was not powerful. Instead, Ouyang Yongwen and the others had only grasped part of it, and with their limited strength, the formation that was known to slay gods could only demonstrate limited power. The formation was powerful enough to easily kill early and even mid-reciprocity experts, but it was useless against late returnants. As soon as the formation was destroyed, all the Origin Realm experts experienced an extremely great backlash. They all spat out blood, staring at Jian Chen in shock as he emerged from the formation. Jian Chen took to the sky, and above him hovered an ancient scroll, giving off a strange presence. He grabbed the scroll and could clearly see 3 words on it: God-slaying formation. The ancient scroll was crucial to using the formation. Jian Chen did not study the scroll in great detail. He casually placed it into his space ring. He knew that it was an ancestral treasure and could even kill gods when its true power was demonstrated. Jian Chen then condensed a strand of sword chi in his hand and aggressively charged toward Ouyang Yongwen without any hesitation. Ouyang Yongwen's face drastically changed and he rapidly retreated. At the same time, a blood-red world was conjured behind him. A blood-red sun and crescent moon replaced each other. He was using his secret technique. Xiongzhong moved at the same time, using the same secret technique, copying Ouyang Yongwen. The secret technique was the most powerful attack they possessed. They had run out of choices while facing Jian Chen, so they could only put up a desperate last stand. Xiongzhong and Ouyang Yongwen used all 3 forms of the secret technique at the same time, but the attacks were nothing to Jian Chen since the 2 of them were only early reciprocity experts. Jian Chen tore through their secret techniques like a hot knife through butter. The sword chi in his hand glowed with a dazzling white light as he stabbed it toward Ouyang Yongwen's forehead without any hesitation at all. Jian Chen! At this moment, a heavy voice reverberated through the surroundings. It smashed through the sky like a clap of thunder. Following the voice was a terrifying sword chi, which permeated the surroundings. On the horizon, a dark metal sword shot toward the world mountains at the speed of lightning, tearing through space. It had reached an unimaginable speed, reaching the top of the world mountains in a single moment. It shot toward Jian Chen with a terrifying presence. Wherever the sword passed, the space behind it collapsed, becoming pitch black. It left a trail of darkness behind it. It looked like a black line was being drawn across the world from afar. It's the Spirit King. Jian Chen jumped to a conclusion and immediately became stern. With the arrival of the Spirit King, the stab Jian Chen was sending toward Ouyang Yongwen paused, but it soon continued on. He was extremely determined in killing Ouyang Yongwen. However, Ouyang Yongwen managed to use everything he had to dodge the fatal strike because Jian Chen paused for a second. However, his arm was chopped off by Jian Chen's sword chi. Jian Chen's eyes were icy cold and killing intent still lingered inside them. He formed a seal with one of his hands and the Ziying sword on his back thrummed, flying out as a dazzling streak of violet light. It went to receive the dark metal sword without any fear. As the Ziying sword shot away, the sky rumbled. Large regions of space collapsed wherever the Ziying sword went. It radiated a supreme sword chi, which filled the surroundings and conflicted with the Spirit King's sword chi. Its influence on the surroundings was no weaker than the metal sword. Chapter 1599, A Battle at Godhood, 1. With a great boom, the Ziying sword and the dark metal sword collided, causing the entire world to violently shake. The world mountains tottered as space shattered, causing the sun to lose its color. The entire sky went from red to black when the sword chi from the two swords splayed out like scattered flowers. They left behind long, deep cracks in space. Some of the residual sword chi shot toward the many Origin Realm experts at the top of the world mountains, immediately filling their faces with fear. They dodged out of desperation. A few strands of sword chi slashed through some protectors, cutting through their skin and drawing blood. In the blink of an eye, many of the protectors were covered in blood. They were injured in many places. Even though the injuries were only skin deep, they were still unpleasant. The Ziying sword dimmed after the attack and returned. The dark metal sword, which belonged to the Spirit King, also dimmed. However, it did not return. It aggressively continued toward Jian Chen as a streak of dark light with surging sword chi. The two of them understood each other's strength from the clash earlier. Jian Chen was clearly still slightly weaker than the Spirit King. Jian Chen was stern. He glared at the sword shooting toward him and formed a new seal with his hand. An azure light suddenly appeared. With the clear resonance of a sword, the Qing Suo sword flew from his back and collided with the dark metal sword. Only after taking on the Qing Suo sword's attack did the metal sword return. It had run out of power. However, the Qing Suo sword dulled in color as well. This did not mean that the twin swords were not the opponents of the Spirit King's sword. Their spirits were still weak. This coupled with the fact that the power of the sword depended on the cultivation level of their master, the two swords needed to work together to stop the Spirit King's weapon. This only seemed like a clash between Jian Chen and the Spirit King's weapon, but in reality, the two of them were the ones clashing instead. As the dark sword flew back, a figure appeared on the distant horizon. He seemed to have fused with the surrounding space, and with each step he took, he traversed an extremely great distance. He appeared in the outskirts of the world mountains in just 3 steps and caught the dark sword, which was flying toward him. Fantastic! The Spirit Kings arrived. We're saved now. With the arrival of the Spirit King, the other experts of the foreign world all let out a breath of relief. They all became excited. Not only had they avoided death due to the arrival of the Spirit King, they had even seen the hope of victory. The Spirit King's strength was undisputed. He began to appear invincible in their hearts long ago, so all the Origin Realm experts of the world of Forsaken Saints possessed almost blind faith for him. Even though they knew that Jian Chen was also extremely powerful, they did not believe he was the Spirit King's opponent. Ouyang Yongwen and Xiong Zhong let out a breath of relief as well. The two of them felt like they were facing a death god when they were about to fight against Jian Chen. Ouyang Yongwen's back had even become covered in cold sweat. He had almost died moments ago. However, before Ouyang Yongwen could celebrate, he felt a coldness well up from the bottom of his heart. An extremely great sense of danger suddenly surged forth. Jian Chen did not pay much attention to the Spirit King. He had already locked onto Ouyang Yongwen's presence. The twin swords shot away from Jian Chen with a dense light, and everything else happened in a single moment. Jian Chen's finger surged with a bright white glow as Ouyang Yongwen's eyes widened, and with just a spurt, Jian Chen easily drove his fingers through Ouyang Yongwen's skull. Powerful sword chi wiped out Ouyang Yongwen's soul in a single moment and ended his life. At the same time, the twin swords blocked the Spirit King's attack, but the Spirit King had personally sent out a strand of sword chi, so the attack seemed to have exceeded the Origin Realm and reached godhood. It could not be compared to the attack from earlier. With a boom, the twin swords were blown away, but the Spirit King's sword chi did not weaken at all. It continued toward Jian Chen, cleaving through space with great might. Jian Chen became stern. He suddenly roared out. He raised his right hand high above his head and a sword chi that was several hundred meters long condensed in his hand. It shot toward the Spirit King. Sky-severing strike. This was one of the first sword techniques that Jian Chen had learned from the sword spirits. It was only a part of the basics, but since it originated from the Immortals world, it easily exceeded the most powerful Saint-tier battle skills. As the sword chi flew out, a sword domain suddenly appeared, causing the space the strike shot through to become its own, separate space. The power of the attack increased within the space while its target was suppressed by the domain. As Jian Chen's strength increased and his comprehension deepened, the sword techniques he used would become incomparably more powerful. At the same time, pleasant music suddenly appeared. A visible sound wave swept out as Shangguan Mu'er played her zither to fend off the Spirit King's sword chi. The only thing was that the Spirit King's attack had basically reached godhood, so it was impossible for Shangguan Mu'er to even shake the attack with her strength at peak mid-reciprocity. When the sound wave contacted the sword Qi, it collapsed, as if it had been sent to its doom. After all, once someone stepped into godhood, both their level of cultivation and the battle prowess they could erupt with would completely surpass the origin realm. It was equivalent to stepping into a whole new realm. Boom! The two powerful strands of sword Qi collided mid-air and erupted with a devastating might. The world mountains shook even more violently while the rest of the world of Forsaken Saints experienced a great earthquake. The ground cracked while the seas tossed and turned. Countless mountains in various parts of the world collapsed. The clash at the world mountains influenced the entire world. The other origin realm experts at the top of the world mountains desperately fled. They leaped off the peak and hid in a crack. The shockwaves of battle from Jian Chen and the Spirit King were just too powerful. If they were careless, they would become heavily injured. Chapter 1600. A Battle at Godhood, 2. Sword techniques required a sword to demonstrate their full power. Jian Chen's twin swords had been knocked away, far enough that he was unable to summon them back in time, so he was unable to use the full power of the sky-severing strike. Even with the amplification of the sword domain, the attack was still weaker than the Spirit King's attack. The Spirit King's sword Qi clashed with Jian Chen's sword technique with a boom. It dispersed Jian Chen's attack before forcefully continuing toward him. However, the attack had weakened drastically after being obstructed. Spurt! The sword Qi penetrated Jian Chen's protective glow and viciously struck his chest. Jian Chen immediately trembled, but soon after that, the chaotic force within him wildly surged out. In just a single moment, his surging chaotic force had gathered in his chest, allowing his body to become shockingly tough. Jian Chen had pushed his chaotic body to the limits of its toughness. His body was so strong that even returnance experts would struggle to injure him. The sword Qi from the Spirit King weakened some more after piercing Jian Chen's protective layer of light, so when it struck his chest, it did not punch through him. It only cut through his flesh and was stopped by his ribs. Jian Chen was pushed into a constant retreat by the sword Qi. With every step he took, the world shook and he left behind huge cracks on the ground. It seemed like every step of his landed on the heart of the world. The world mountains did not collapse. Aside from the rain of shattered rock and a few cracks, they were not severely damaged, even after enduring the shockwaves from the battle between Jian Chen and the Spirit King. At this moment, the twin swords flew over from afar. They shone with an azure and violet light as they shot toward the sword Qi that remained on his chest, dispersing it, which caused it to release a terrifying pulse of energy. The Spirit King indifferently glanced at Ouyang Yongwen's corpse. He showed no particular emotion at all. He took a step, wielding the metal sword, and appeared before Jian Chen like he had teleported. The sword shone bright as he stabbed out. The strike contained the way of the sword, powers of the laws of the world. The attack seemed to possess the might of the world, enough to dull the world, as if the attack became the only thing left in the world. At the same time, the Ziying sword returned to Jian Chen's hand. Jian Chen's presence suddenly erupted now that he possessed a sword. If he had been a slumbering beast before, the supreme presence from him right now made him seem like he had awoken. He possessed a devastating might. Jian Chen's arm suddenly shook and turned into a blur. It moved extremely quickly. The Ziying sword glowed brighter, dyeing the sky violet. Jian Chen's attack also contained the way of the sword, powers of the laws of the world. At the same time, destructive chaotic force was hidden inside as well, making his attack much more powerful than the sword technique from earlier even though he was not using one now. The attack seemed to have exceeded the origin realm and reached godhood. Boom! The Ziying sword and the Spirit King's sword clashed with devastating power. The collision made space collapse and the world mountains to shake and totter. The terrifying shockwaves expanded, impacting the entire world. In just a short moment, the vast world turned into a mess. The seas churned as countless cities and mountains collapsed. There were countless people who were injured by the shockwaves. The eruption of the two godhood-level attacks in the world mountains was like the end of the world. It was just too powerful. Even though they were only attacks from the weakest of godhood experts, the collision was enough to destroy the world. Jian Chen and the Spirit King were both pushed back after the attack. The Spirit King only took 3 steps. His face remained the same while gleams of light flickered through his eyes. On the other hand, Jian Chen only stopped after retreating several dozen meters and his face was completely red. Jian Chen had clearly lost the upper hand even though the two of them had not used any secret techniques or sword techniques. The Spirit King had possessed a battle prowess akin to godhood experts several years ago, and had elevated his strength to peak reciprocity in the past 20 years as well. So he had surpassed his battle prowess from before. Jian Chen's chaotic body at the 8th layer was only equivalent to early returnants. He also managed to elevate his battle prowess to godhood through various loopholes, but he still remained weaker than the Spirit King. The Spirit King hovered in the air with his metal sword. He stared at Jian Chen in interest and calmly said, "I remember when I first met you. You only possessed the strength of a receival expert. When you fought against Xiong, you managed to heavily injure him, a late returnance expert, and drive him back. This time is the 3rd time we have met, yet you possess strength almost equivalent to mine. Your rate of growth really does astound me. You're so bad yourself. You're the most outstanding genius of the world of Forsaken Saints. You're the strongest Spirit King. And it's all because of you that my strength has been able to increase so much in such a short amount of time. If you did not pressure me, my strength would not have been able to grow so much in so little time," Jian Chen replied with a deep voice. Although his strength was drastically different now, he still felt a very great pressure when facing the Spirit King. "Jian Chen, if we keep fighting with our battle prowess that's equivalent to godhood, the damage will be just too great. Countless lives will be lost in this world. Why don't we fight in the depths of space in the other world?" the Spirit King said. He did not want to fight with Jian Chen anymore in the world of Forsaken Saints, as it would sustain extremely severe losses. All the people below the Origin Realm might even end up losing their lives. After all, a fight between the two of them would be equivalent to a fight among godhood experts. The damage would be so great that it would exceed a massive battle between Origin Realm experts. However, outer space in the other world clearly referred to the world of the Tianyuan continent. Jian Chen did not reply. He looked up at the sky and a gleam of light flickered through his eyes. He saw a blood-red sun and a crescent moon hanging in the east and west respectively. There was nothing else aside from that. You can see it as well. The world of Forsaken Saints is incomplete. It's not even a real world. "We don't have outer space here," said the Spirit King. Jian Chen replied emotionlessly, "Back when your world launched a large-scale invasion on our Tianyuan continent, you caused great damage to our world. The Tianyuan continent has shattered into several pieces and countless people fell in battle. I've taken the initiative to come to your world just so the battlefield will be here. Now your world will suffer just like we did. How can I agree to go back? Jian Chen, you should think my suggestion through. Once we begin fighting, the damage will be far greater than any battle between Origin Realm experts. At that time, far more than tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands people will be dead. My world has a population of as much as a quadrillion. It's extremely likely that all of them to die from the shockwaves of our battle. The world will not bear slaughter like that. Celestial decay will descend and will be more powerful than it has ever been. We may have attained battle prowess equivalent to godhood experts, but we still haven't reached godhood in terms of cultivation. We're unable to go against the might of the world, so when it comes, neither one of us will be able to avoid the punishment of celestial decay, the Spirit King said with a heavy voice. His eyes were sharp like swords as he stared at Jian Chen. Chapter 1601. A Battle at Godhood, 3. A gleam of light flickered through Jian Chen's eyes. He knew that the Spirit King was telling the truth. If there was a battle among Origin Realm experts, even if they were at reciprocity, the shockwaves would be terrifying but would be nowhere near destructive enough to destroy a world. At most, they would just cause heavy damage. He could tell that everything in the world of Forsaken Saints was much tougher than the Tianyuan continent since Origin energy had existed in the environment for countless years. However, that would still not be enough to endure a battle between godhood experts. Everything would be destroyed if the battle went on for long. Jian Chen knew that celestial decay would definitely descend if a quadrillion lives died by their hands and that it would possess terrifying power. However, Jian Chen had taken the initiative to come to the world of Forsaken Saints just to avoid having the battle take place on the Tianyuan continent. So how could he agree to the Spirit King's suggestion so easily? The light in Jian Chen's eyes flickered. He stared at the Spirit King's face and gruffly said, "It's not impossible for us to fight in my world, but there must be a condition. From today on, none of your Forsaken Saint race can set a single foot on the Tianyuan continent." Impossible. The Spirit King declined Jian Chen's condition. He declined firmly and decisively with no hesitation at all. Jian Chen's gaze grew colder as he said, "If that's the case, there's no point in talking anymore. We can only fight." When Jian Chen uttered the last word, his presence suddenly surged, and he aggressively charged toward the Spirit King while the Ziying sword in his hand shone with a violet light. The Qing Suo sword hovered above his head and flickered with an azure light. Under the control of Jian Chen's soul, it was ready to strike at any time. The Spirit King's eyes were cold and emotionless. He gazed at Jian Chen deeply before entering the tunnel in a single moment. He shot toward the Tianyuan continent. Jian Chen missed his attack and watched the Spirit King enter the tunnel. His face immediately changed, and at the same time, the Spirit King's voice loudly reverberated from the tunnel, causing the entire tunnel to shake. "Jian Chen, I will fight you in outer space in the other world. Don't try killing the protectors and elders who are at Origin Realm. If you lower yourself so far as to touch them, I will do the same. Jian Chen, go quick. Only you can stop the Spirit King now. You can't let him harm the Tianyuan continent. Leave the other people to me." Shangguan Muer's voice rang out. Jian Chen nodded and looked at Shangguan Muer. "Then be careful." With that, he charged into the tunnel like a loose arrow, heading toward the Tianyuan continent as quickly as he could. "You be careful too." Shangguan Muer's voice gently came from behind. It was filled with concern. The Spirit King and Jian Chen both left the world of Forsaken Saints. Thus, the World Mountains experienced a rare moment of peace. However, the peace was broken once again. Great booms mixed with music materialized as a devastating battle ensued. Shangguan Muer began fighting the Origin Realm experts from the world of Forsaken Saints. Although the foreign world possessed an advantage in numbers, most of them were only at receival, and there were only 5 at returnants. Xiongzhong was the only one at reciprocity, and he was at early reciprocity. On the other hand, Shangguan Muer was at the peak of mid-reciprocity. Coupled with her unique skills of the zither, she was able to take on all the Origin Realm experts by herself. Not only did she fail to suffer defeat, but she even gained the upper hand. As time marched on, the eyes of many protectors filled with confusion. The music was gradually taking over their souls. In the end, the forces of the foreign world used a treasure that had been passed down for countless generations. They only managed to achieve a stalemate with Shangguan Muer after its assistance. The treasure also managed to weaken the charm of the music, so the protectors gradually recovered from her control. However, their battle prowess was still dulled since their souls were being suppressed by the music, preventing them from using their full strength. All the sainthood experts of the 4 races were gathered around the entrance of the tunnel on the Tianyuan continent. All of them stared at the tunnel as various emotions flickered through their eyes. There was excitement, anticipation, and worry. All of them knew that the greatest human expert, Jian Chen, and the mistress of 3 Saint Island had entered the other world. Their actions were connected to the survival of the Tianyuan continent. Their fates were bound together, which weighed on everyone's mind. At this moment, an indescribably tremendous pressure suddenly emerged from the tunnel. It gushed into the world like a flood. Soon after it appeared, the quiet tunnel began to shake violently and its walls began to crack. All the experts there revealed drastically different expressions when they sensed the pressure. Even the Sea Goddess, Houston, Tai Ta, Yang Lai, and the other Origin Realm experts revealed extremely ugly faces. "It's the Spirit King. The Spirit King's coming over. Everyone retreat," Tai Ta cried out. The tremendous presence made them all shiver with fear. It was definitely beyond reciprocity. Only the Spirit King possessed such a strength aside from Jian Chen. What? The Spirit King's coming over? Has Sovereign Jian Chen been defeated? Many sainthood experts among the 4 races became extremely pale. Despair filled their eyes. Boom. However, before they had too much time to think about the situation, a figure flew out of the tunnel. He was a blur that shot into the sky in a single moment, disappearing from everyone's view. He moved unbelievably fast, exceeding the reaction speed of many people. His terrifying presence had failed to injure anyone on the Tianyuan continent either. Just as the figure flew into outer space, the tunnel shook once more. Jian Chen shot out of the tunnel like an arrow as he radiated a blinding violet light. He did not stop at all, directly charging into outer space as well. It's Sovereign Jian Chen. Sovereign Jian Chen hasn't been defeated. Fantastic. Sovereign Jian Chen is pursuing the Spirit King. Sovereign Jian Chen is invincible. The people in despair immediately regained their high spirits when the violet light appeared. They all involuntarily cried out and were extremely emotional. Although many of them could not see Jian Chen, the resplendent violet light and extremely sharp sword Qi had basically become Jian Chen's symbol. Chapter 1602. The Daluo sword. The stars twinkled in the cold and dark space. They did not shine particularly bright. Who knew just how far away those stars were? At this moment, a dazzling violet light suddenly appeared in the dead silent space. It flew from a huge planet at the speed of lightning while shining like a violet sun. It illuminated the surroundings. A figure seemed to be standing in the stream of violet light. He stood straight as supreme sword intent permeated his surroundings, causing space to shake and collapse. The figure did not seem particularly large, but it contained a terrifying power that could destroy the world. Opposite the figure was a middle-aged man who calmly hovered. He held an ordinary dark metal sword and also radiated a supreme sword intent, causing the surrounding space to collapse. Although his appearance was nothing special, the pressure from his body was so terrifying that it could shake the world. To no surprise, one was the greatest human expert, Jian Chen, and the other was the Spirit King, who ruled over the world of forsaken saints. The two of them had arrived at a spot that was extremely far away from the Tianyuan continent. The planet the Tianyuan continent existed on was now the size of a fist. Spirit King, if we engage in an all-out battle against your world of forsaken saints, both my Tianyuan continent and your world of forsaken saints will lose many lives. At that time, it will be not as simple as a few 100,000 or million. It'll be in the 100 millions. To avoid this disaster caused by a brutal war, why don't we decide the outcome between the two worlds from this battle? Jian Chen said with a heavy voice. He did not want the Tianyuan continent to engage in a full-blown war against the foreign world because the difference between the two worlds was just far too big. The Tianyuan continent was too weak. The Tianyuan continent was at a disadvantage and would definitely lose in the end. Jian Chen really wanted to take revenge for his great-grandfather Chongyang Zhu Shao, but he also understood that if he could not remain composed, then even more people would die from the Tianyuan continent. The amount that would die would reach into the 100 millions. And now that the world was gradually recovering its origin energy and the laws of the world were gradually approaching completion, what they needed the most was time to gather strength. He believed that the Tianyuan continent would not need to fear the world of forsaken saints after quite some time, and at that time, even the world of forsaken saints would have to reconsider invading once again. Sure. If I am defeated in this battle, I'll only take the protectors and elders who follow me to the world of forsaken saints and we won't set another foot in your world within the next 10,000 years. But if I win, your universe completely belongs to us, said the Spirit King. In the past, he would have never made a decision like this because the Tianyuan continent was not powerful enough to catch the attention of the world of forsaken saints. However, Jian Chen now had the strength to enforce conditions. All right. Then the outcome of our battle will determine the homes of the various races in the future, Jian Chen confirmed. He exploded with a violet light in a single moment and charged toward the Spirit King. Wherever he passed, space would collapse. A gleam of light flickered through the Spirit King's eyes, and he charged toward Jian Chen at the same time. His presence also surged, making the surrounding space shake and collapse. The two of them engaged in a battle far, far away from the Tianyuan continent. The Ziying sword and dark metal sword collided and so did their way of the sword. They glowed with the brightest light, outshining the sun, moon, and stars. The space around them experienced large-scale destruction time and time again. Every time they clashed, they would annihilate a large region of space and turn the laws of the world into a mess. Both Jian Chen and the Spirit King used their full strength. Although Jian Chen was slightly weaker than the Spirit King, the difference was not extremely large. It could easily be bridged by his 8th-layer chaotic body and his abilities as a Class 9 Radiant Saint Master. The disturbance from Jian Chen and the Spirit King's fight was just far too great. Even on the Tianyuan continent, people could see lights exploding like suns and vaguely hear the roars of battle, which impacted the energy of the world on the Tianyuan continent and turned it into a mess. The intensity of the battle was unprecedented. It completely exceeded any battles among the Origin realm. The shockwaves of battle were so destructive that the countless people who were watching all felt shocked. Many humans, magical beasts, members of the sea race, and 100 races had arrived in outer space. They watched Jian Chen and the Spirit King fight from very far away as astoundment filled many of their faces. Jian Chen and the Spirit King would clash over 100 times in a single flash. Jian Chen was currently covered with blood, his white robes dyed red. He had sustained around a dozen sword slashes and every single one of them was vicious and frightening. His body had even been pierced the whole way through. However, the chaotic body had gifted him with unimaginable vitality and battle prowess, so no matter how heavily injured he was, his battle prowess did not decrease at all. Instead, he fought more ferociously as the battle raged on. Coupled with the recovery of abilities of Class 9 Radiant Saint Force Origin Energy and the chaotic body, his wounds rapidly healed. When the Spirit King saw how quickly Jian Chen could recover, even his eyes narrowed in shock. The Spirit King was in horrible shape as well. His clothes were speckled with blood. Some of it came from Jian Chen and some came from himself. He had also been injured, but his wounds were insignificant compared to the wounds covering Jian Chen's body. Daluo sword. Suddenly, Jian Chen bellowed a name and a resplendent golden glow radiated from his body. Coupled with a certain presence, it rapidly condensed into a glimmering golden sword chi. The sword chi was so powerful that even the Spirit King frowned and became stern. Swish! The sword chi turned into a golden streak of light as it shot toward the Spirit King. Space collapsed on a massive scale wherever it moved, creating a river of darkness made up of spatial cracks, which devoured all light. The sword chi's power was utterly terrifying. It had surpassed what the world could endure, making the space around it extremely fragile. Swordbreaker. At the same time, the Spirit King bellowed out a name as well. His sword immediately began to shine brighter as he stabbed out with a mysterious power, making it collide with the golden sword chi. Boom! With a deafening boom, the Spirit King's sword pressed against the tip of the golden sword chi. However, the sword chi did not disperse. Instead, it continued on without slowing down at all, pushing the Spirit King back. It was also at that time that the Spirit King's upper garment turned to dust, revealing his bronze skin. However, his bronze body rapidly became covered with a layer of dense cuts. Each wound was extremely small, but they all drew blood, covering the Spirit King in blood in the blink of an eye. The Spirit King's gaze was cold and extremely stern. His long hair swayed wildly as origin energy surged forth. He used his full strength to stop the sword chi. At the same time, the mysterious power within the sword chi seemed to possess a special type of corrosion, eating away the golden sword chi at a visible rate. However, the golden sword chi was not as simple as energy and laws. There was a certain presence within it that the mysterious power that came from the metal sword could not eat away. Chapter 1603. A battle to the death. The Spirit King was rapidly pushed back by the golden sword chi in outer space. He was pushed away so quickly that a golden comet appeared to cross the sky, crossing a great distance in a single moment. Jian Chen ran through space. He was not slow as he pursued the Spirit King with his entire strength. However, the golden sword chi moved much quicker than him, causing the distance between him and the Spirit King to widen. I never thought he would know such a great ability. The Spirit King was shocked inside. While he was being pushed back by the golden sword chi, he was unable to move his body since the sword chi was moving too quickly. He could only wait as he was pushed further and further away. If it were not for the tip of his sword, which was still pressing against the golden sword chi, he probably would have been pierced by the sword chi. The mysterious power in the metal sword rapidly ate away the golden sword chi, causing its power to drastically decline. Finally, the golden sword chi weakened. The Spirit King put some force into his right arm and the tip of the metal sword jerked. With a great push, the Spirit King moved to one side and avoided the rest of the sword chi. The golden sword chi continued on without slowing down at all, continuing toward the starry depths. In the end, the residual sword chi struck the moon with a boom and caused it to shake violently. The sword chi pierced through the body of the moon and emerged on the other side. The power of the attack was just shocking and terrifying. Everyone clearly watched a golden streak of light cross the sky above the Tianyuan continent. All of them immediately became deeply astounded when they saw the streak of light penetrate the moon. The battle prowess at godhood was unbelievable. If experts at godhood went all out without restraining themselves, destroying a planet would not be a problem. Jian Chen ran through space while the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force filled his body. All his wounds rapidly healed. He had already recovered from most of them by now. Swordbreaker can counter all sword moves in the world. I never thought you'd know something like that. A violet light revolved around Jian Chen as he coldly spoke while staring at the Spirit King in interest. However, Jian Chen was nowhere near as calm as he seemed on the surface. Underneath, his heart churned. The technique used by the Spirit King had made him remember the figure he had tried to forget the most. That figure had created the Swordbreaker, which could be used to counter all sword moves in the world. The difference in power between the Spirit King and the person Jian Chen knew was like heaven and earth. One targeted sword moves used by mortals while the other contained devastating power. But the Swordbreaker used by the Spirit King actually made him feel a sliver of familiarity. The Spirit King also stared at Jian Chen with great interest. A gleam of light flickered through his eyes when he heard what Jian Chen said. He coldly replied, "Just as I expected. Jian Chen, it really is you." Jian Chen's heart began to billow the moment he heard the Spirit King speak. At that moment, he had never felt more shocked. During the several decades he had spent in this world, his astoundment had never been so intense. "This is our battle to the death. I'd like to see if you can defeat me this time." The Spirit King's presence soaring. At that moment, he erupted with great battle intent, greater than anything he had ever displayed in his life. He revealed his entire strength to engage in a battle to the death with Jian Chen. Formbreaker. The Spirit King yelled while his metal sword shot toward Jian Chen with a mysterious power. Everything in the surroundings fell silent the moment the Spirit King attacked while all the stars dimmed. The attack possessed a wondrous power. It could destroy everything, targeting everything with a form. Tai sword technique. At the same time, Jian Chen struck out. He fused his body and soul with his sword and condensed a strand of sword qi from his body, using it as a sword. He charged toward the Spirit King without any fear. The collision of the two people resulted in a devastating boom. Terrifying energy splattered in all directions, causing a huge hole across countless kilometers of space to form. The laws of the world in the hole became jumbled, and the two of them were engulfed in a huge crack, making them disappear. Jian Chen and the Spirit King emerged with lightning-like speed from the dark hole. They stood opposing one another several dozen kilometers away. They were both covered in blood, but Jian Chen's wounds were even more severe than the Spirit King's injuries. A huge hole had been punched through his body while the Spirit King possessed several terrifying slashes that bled constantly. His Formbreaker was an extremely powerful attack. It was a counter to everything with a form, thus, able to destroy everything in the world. It was countless times more powerful than Swordbreaker. A will that splits the heavens. The sword shakes and stars shatter. The Spirit King cried out. His cry was so loud that it reverberated through outer space. The metal sword began to tremble violently as a ring of visible ripples appeared. It rapidly expanded toward Jian Chen with a devastating power. The meteors that came in contact with the ripple, some of which were over 10 kilometers away, actually shattered, turning into dust. Jian Chen was grim. He felt an extremely intense sense of threat from the ripple, even greater than the threat he felt from Formbreaker. He did not doubt that he would instantly shatter into pieces even with his 8-layer chaotic body if the ripple reached him. He would turn into dust just like the meteors. As the ripple expanded, an even larger region of space was engulfed and sealed off, preventing Jian Chen from dodging. The attacks from the Spirit King were becoming more and more powerful. However, Jian Chen did not fear them. He had not spent 20 years cultivating to only elevate his chaotic body to the 8th layer. He had also grasped various sword techniques, which were on a whole different level. At the same time, every single sword technique was more powerful than his sky-severing strike. Linear lightning release. With Jian Chen's voice, he turned into the sword. He shot off, like a loose arrow, in a resplendent violet light and a deep, thunderous boom. He surged forward like dazzling lightning, where each bolt was several meters thick. They possessed great power as they licked the surrounding space, dancing about like snakes. The bolts caused space to cave in as Jian Chen viciously shot toward the ripple. At that moment, Jian Chen seemed to have become a bolt of lightning. He moved incomparably fast, appearing to break free from the limits of time and space. He arrived before the ripple in a single moment and collided with it. The lightning immediately distorted and several bolts were put out. Jian Chen's body shook and he became extremely pale. He even vomited blood while his chaotic body showed signs of collapse, revealing cracks. However, the ripple rapidly disintegrated after Jian Chen's collision as a lightning bolt. Jian Chen vomited blood as he continued on at a supreme speed, flickering with lightning and shooting toward the Spirit King. Jian Chen moved far too fast. He had truly reached the speed of lightning, arriving before the Spirit King in a single moment. The Zi-Ing sword stabbed the Spirit King in the chest, re-emerging on the other side. However, since Jian Chen was moving unbelievably fast, he lost control and collided with the Spirit King, which immediately resulted in a deafening boom. The two of them flew off like meteors. The Spirit King vomited blood. He had become heavily injured. His injuries did arise from Jian Chen's sword, but from the collision. The Spirit King felt like he had been hit by a mountain the moment Jian Chen struck him. The power was immense. His entire frame groaned from the strain while his organs tossed and turned like waves. Jian Chen was not any better off either. He had been injured from the ripple and his chaotic body had almost crumbled. He was even more injured now. However, he had no other choice. He had only recently grasped the technique, so he was still slightly unfamiliar with using it. He was unable to control his speed, which was why he collided with the Spirit King like a cannonball after stabbing him. Chapter 1604. The Spirit King's identity. The Spirit King and Jian Chen shot off like meteors at the speed of lightning. They both vomited blood and paled, having both become severely injured. They flew off in the same direction. Jian Chen had used a sword technique and erupted with the true speed of lightning, but since he was moving too fast, he had lost control. On the other hand, the Spirit King was struck by Jian Chen at an incomparable speed, sending him flying. The Spirit King had temporarily lost control of his body. Boom! With a thunderous sound, Jian Chen and the Spirit King collided with the moon. The celestial body trembled as dust and sand were kicked up into space. Two huge bottomless holes appeared, piercing the entire piece of rock. At the same time, a terrifying shockwave spread out with them the holes at the center. The shockwave flooded the surroundings and reached most of the moon. Oh my god! Sovereign Jian Chen and the Spirit King have gone to the moon to fight. I can see dust being kicked up from the moon. That's just unbelievable. Sovereign Jian Chen and the Spirit King are actually so fast that they've crossed such a tremendous distance in such a short moment and arrived on the moon. Throughout history, rarely anyone has set foot on the moon, because it's just too far away from the Tianyuan continent. Most Saint Emperors would not even go there because they can't absorb the energy of the world in outer space. Once they run out of Saint force, it's extremely difficult to recover out there. Within the past million years, no one aside from Fairy Hao Yu has gone to the moon. The various experts of the four races all sighed in surprise above the Tianyuan continent. They all looked at Jian Chen in admiration and yearned to become like him one day. A distance that was basically impossible for Saint Emperors to traverse had been crossed in a single moment by Sovereign Jian Chen. All of them eagerly dreamed for such strength. The moon had lost all sense of peace by now. The entire place shook and cracked as mountains collapsed. It seemed like the world was ending. The disturbance caused by the impact was just shocking. Two extremely powerful sword intents permeated the moon, conflicting with one another unintentionally. The conflict caused space to distort and collapse. Jian Chen and the Spirit King hovered in the air. They were both in horrible conditions and covered in blood. Although they were heavily injured, they showed no signs of weakness at all. Their eyes were cold and filled with great battle intent. Jian Chen's body was enveloped by a layer of milky white light. He rapidly healed by using his Class 9 Radiant Saint Force Origin energy and his chaotic body, so his injuries quickly disappeared. On the other hand, the Spirit King did not recover as quickly as Jian Chen. His eyes immediately narrowed as he watched Jian Chen's wounds close up at a visible rate. He immediately consumed a recovery pill before aggressively charging at Jian Chen. Jian Chen and the Spirit King engaged in an intense battle on the moon. Both of them used their full strength without hiding anything at all. They used various powerful sword techniques and secret techniques time and time again, colliding many times on the moon. Every single attack was devastating. Booms constantly rang out. The moon was devastated. The moon, which normally glowed bright in the sky, had lost all its color. It had become dull as all the dust drifted around it, hiding its luster. Whether it was the sainthood experts, the puny mortal realm fighters, or even the millions of ordinary people, they all raised their heads to look at the sky to see something that had never happened in the past. Jian Chen and the Spirit King's battle had reached the climax. It was as intense as it had ever been. Strands of sword qi crisscrossed, destroying everything. Huge, bottomless cracks appeared on the ground, weaving between each other like webs. As they fought from one side of the moon to the other, countless holes were created, completely damaging the moon. As their huge resplendent strands of sword qi collided, the holy moon before their feet finally gave way, splitting in half. Look, the moon's shattered. The moon has actually shattered. Oh my god, Sovereign Jian Chen and the Spirit King have actually broken the moon. Sovereign Jian Chen and the Spirit King's strength is actually so mind-boggling. This is just unbelievable. All the sainthood experts and origin realm experts became stunned when the moon split in half. Their faces were filled with utter disbelief. When they saw the moon split, all of them felt extremely taken aback. At that moment, many of them felt like the world was ending. Even heavenly bodies could be destroyed during a battle. They struggled to imagine just how terrifying Jian Chen's battle against the Spirit King was. The moon was no smaller than the planet they inhabited, yet their battle split it in half. Did that not mean that they possessed the power to destroy the planet the Tianyuan continent lay on? At that moment, all the sainthood experts among the four races had never felt more admiration and reverence for Jian Chen. What they felt completely surpassed what they had felt for the sea goddess, the winged tiger god, Tai Ta, and so on. Jian Chen and the Spirit King stood separate halves of the moon. They were in an even worse shape now. They were so heavily injured that they would send chills down the backs of people after just a single glance. The Spirit King's body was covered with vicious slashes. There were 4 wounds traveling through his body. A huge chunk of his flesh was missing. There was a fist-sized hole on his resolute face, passing through to the back of his head. Fortunately, the hole had not reached his soul. However, Jian Chen's condition was even more severe than the Spirit King. His left arm was completely gone while his right arm had become a bloody mess. He only had 2 fingers left on his right hand, having lost the other 3. The injuries on his body were the most severe. He had almost been cleaved in 2 near the waist, leaving a third of his flesh holding it all together. He had completely lost feeling in one of his legs. There were many piercing wounds on his chest as well, completely destroying his organs. He had even lost a third of his head, only leaving behind a single eye. He looked extremely ferocious. If the fighters from the Tianyuan continent saw Jian Chen's miserable appearance, they would definitely faint. His injuries were incredible. If it were not for his chaotic body, he would have collapsed long ago. I never thought that your strength would actually grow to such a level, to be able to force me to a point like this. Jian Chen, you really are worthy of being rumored as the youngest genius on the Jianghu. Even when you've come to a higher world, you're still as glorious as you were in the past. What confuses me is why you were so weak when I first met you. The Spirit King stared at Jian Chen with mixed feelings. What I least expected was that the strongest Spirit King in all of the world of Forsaken Saints history was my opponent from my last life, Dugu Qiubai. Do I call you the Spirit King or Dugu Qiubai? Jian Chen replied gruffly, but he was not calm at all inside. The Spirit King gently sighed. Dugu Qiubai is not my name, but a title that the people from the Jianghu bestowed to me. You better call me Shen Jian instead. That's my real name. Jian Chen, in our past life, you killed my only disciple, so we engaged in a battle to the death and died together. In this world, our strengths are similar as well. If we continue like this, it'll probably lead to the same outcome as before. Why don't we call it a draw today? Reminiscence filled Jian Chen's eyes and his emotions became mixed. In his past life, he was from a completely different generation compared to Dugu Qiubai, and they would never have come in contact with one another except for a person called Lu Kaiyun. He was Dugu Qiubai's only disciple and a wastrel. He had provoked Jian Chen and clashed with him, dying to Jian Chen's hands. The battle between Jian Chen and Dugu Qiubai had all been caused by this person called Lu Kaiyun. We can call it a draw, but your world of Forsaken Saints will never be able to touch the Tianyuan continent from now on. I will only allow Origin Realm experts to pass on to the Saints' world, said Jian Chen. The Tianyuan continent held great value to him and was also his bottom line. He would not cross it for anyone. We can discuss that in the future. You're even more injured than me right now, so even with your rapid recovery rate, no one will benefit if we keep on fighting. We might end up dying together once again, replied the Spirit King. He did not agree to Jian Chen's proposal, clearly intending on taking up a territory in this world as well. I'm very injured, but if we keep fighting, I might not necessarily die. If that's not enough, I have the ability to flee, and after a few more dozen years, I can refine the profound sword qi. Killing you won't be a problem, Jian Chen coldly responded. A will that splits the heavens has 3 moves in total. I've only grasped the first one right now. If I can use the second one as well, killing you would be piece of cake today as well. I think it's best to call it a draw, and we can discuss everything else in the future, said the Spirit King. He was confident and did not give in at all. Dugu Qiubai, may I ask you how long you've been cultivating? Jian Chen stared at the Spirit King with piercing eyes. He was furious about how the Spirit King did not want to give up his intentions of gaining a piece of territory, tempting him to begin fighting again. Over 800 years, said the Spirit King. You've cultivated for over 800 years and this is all you've achieved. I've cultivated for less than a century. If you think you'll still be my opponent in the future, we can call it a draw today, but your world will not set another foot in mine from today on, said Jian Chen. The Spirit King's eyes narrowed. A sliver of uncontainable shock was present in the gaze he sent toward Jian Chen. Chapter 1605. Breaking Free. What? You say you've only been cultivating for less than 100 years? The Spirit King's voice was filled with shock. Even with his mental fortitude, he struggled to maintain his composure. His heart churned. He had used at least 8 whole centuries to go from a mortal to what he now possessed, but he was still named the most outstanding genius in all of the world of Forsaken Saints history, crowned as the strongest Spirit King. However, Jian Chen had used less than 100 years to reach his level and fight him to a stalemate, which filled him with disbelief. Going from a mortal to godhood in just 100 years was very startling, even though he had only just reached the lowest levels of godhood. Even in the saints' world, such a terrifying growth rate would cause a huge commotion. I never thought that when we killed each other, you ended up surviving just like me, being transported to foreign worlds that neighbored each other. What has surprised me even more is that you actually successfully reincarnated several years earlier than me. Jian Chen's feelings were mixed as he sighed emotionally inside. The Spirit King from the world of Forsaken Saints had weighed on his shoulders like a mountain in the past, almost to the point that he found it suffocating. He had even treated the Spirit King as the greatest enemy in his life, but he had never thought that the Spirit King came from the same world as him. Jian Chen was amazed. He was amazed by how anything could happen in the universe. Jian Chen had even guessed that the reason why Dugu Qiubai had reincarnated with him was because of the sword spirits. He could still remember the extremely bright azure and violet lights when he closed his eyes for the last time. They were resplendent and dazzling and covered the entire sky. Perhaps when the sword spirits awakened back then, the space and laws in that lower world had been influenced since their powers were too great, reincarnating Dugu Qiubai as well. After all, the energy of the world he lived in the past was so thin that only mortals existed. There was not a single cultivator. It could not compare to the Tianyuan continent. It was obviously impossible for a world like that to be tough at all, so the weakened sword spirits could easily tear through it. Jian Chen was not very surprised by their great age difference. After all, when he and Dugu Qiubai were reincarnated, neither of them knew just how long they had spent crossing through space. Dugu Qiubai might have only reincarnated several decades, centuries, or even millennia after he had died, while Jian Chen had reincarnated even later than that. This was similar to the sayings and rumors regarding reincarnation among mortals. No one would know just how much time would pass the moment someone died to when they started their next life. It could be a single moment, a few millennia, several dozen millennia, or even longer. Jian Chen, I am indeed weaker than you in terms of talent, but I must obtain a piece of land in this world. The environment of your Tianyuan continent cannot compare to the world of Forsaken Saints. If my world is hell, then yours would be heaven. As the current Spirit King, I must think of my people. If you insist that the people from my world cannot set foot on the Tianyuan continent, there's only one thing I can do, and that's to defeat you. The Spirit King stared at Jian Chen deeply. He was extremely determined. Although he would venture to the Saints' world in the end, only Origin Realm experts could go there. He still had many weaker clansmen in the world of Forsaken Saints, so before he left, he needed to find them a suitable place to inhabit. As a result, the Spirit King and Jian Chen did not behave like they were close even though they came from the same place. They both only considered their own races. Jian Chen's eyes grew colder. He said, if that's the case, we can only continue our battle until someone is defeated. However, soon after Jian Chen spoke, a terrifying pulse appeared deep in outer space. It possessed enough power to shake the world, immediately causing Jian Chen's face to change. He suddenly shifted his eyes to look in that direction. He stared in the direction where the Yin Yang Saint Rock lay, but because it was so far away, Jian Chen was unable to see what was happening. All he could do was sense the great formation in the depths of space. At the same time, the Spirit King's eyes narrowed. He stared into the depths as well. He was stern since he, too, could feel the extremely powerful pulse from the distant region of space. It made him shiver inside. All the other Origin Realm experts on the Tianyuan continent sensed it as well. Their attention all gathered in the same direction, and they became extremely stern. They had no idea what was happening, but they all felt their hearts jump when the pulse appeared. They also felt chills run down their spine. Chills rarely ever happened to them. In fact, they had never experienced such a visceral feeling before. The evil power hidden within the Yinyang Saint Rock has actually broken free. How did it break free so soon? Jian Chen's face became extremely ugly. When he had left with Shangguan Mu'er, there was still a shell of the Yinyang Saint Rock, which formed a jail that sealed in the evil power. He had estimated that the remaining rock could keep the evil power trapped for a few more years, up to a few dozen more years, enough time for him to deal with the threat of the foreign world and even refine his profound sword qi. Unexpectedly, the remaining rock only kept the evil power trapped for less than a day. The evil power had absorbed all of the energy and had broken free. I can sense extremely dense origin energy in the depths of space. No wonder there's no origin energy in this world. It's all there. Where is this place? The Spirit King asked. He was not curious at all and was grim instead, because he could feel an extremely intense sense of threat from the pulse of energy. Quick! Heal. Heal as soon as you can. We don't have much time, Jian Chen said with a deep voice. His voice was rather hurried. At that moment, he became extremely grim as well. He immediately began to heal as quickly as he could. The Spirit King stared at Jian Chen before taking out a pill and consuming it. He sat down where he was to heal. What terrifying thing is hidden there? The Spirit King asked. His wounds were also recovering rapidly but at a slightly slower rate. Chapter 1606. Ceasefire. There's an extremely evil power and it's grown to a terrifying state. You should be able to sense how powerful it is, Jian Chen said in a gruff voice. The Spirit King was silent. He arrived on the shattered moon and sat down on half of a mountain with its top cleaved off. His gaze was sharp as he stared into the depths of space. He unintentionally let his powerful origin energy pulse and his pressure permeate the surroundings, causing space to twist and shake. I originally thought that the evil power would need a few years to break free at the very least, but I was wrong. I never thought it would break free so quickly. I have never seen something so evil. Once it appears, all the life in this world will definitely become extinct. No one will be able to survive. If we don't stop it, it will bring a calamity, and it might even destroy the entire world if it's powerful enough, said Jian Chen. He sat down on the other half of the moon as he stared at the Spirit King. He added, Xinjian, your world and mine are connected, so the evil power won't only threaten the Tianyuan continent. Even your world of forsaken saints won't be able to avoid this calamity, so I suggest that we call a ceasefire between our worlds and deal with the evil power first. What do you think? This is your world's problem. It's got nothing to do with mine. You're not wrong about how the tunnel connects our worlds, but the evil presence is so powerful that it might not necessarily be able to pass through and threaten us. If push comes to pull, we'll just give up on any territory in this world and try to seal off the tunnel, the Spirit King emotionlessly replied. Shenzhen, it'll definitely have significant impact on your world. The presence of the evil power is so great that none of us will be able to defeat it individually, and regarding the tunnel, it only limits fighters. The evil power isn't a fighter. Its creation is beyond the scope of our understanding. It's such a special existence that the tunnel might not be able to keep it at bay. And even if you do seal up the tunnel, won't my people still be able to smash through your seal forcefully? What will you do then? Jian Chen replied sternly. A gleam of light flickered through the Spirit King's eyes when Jian Chen approached the end of what he was saying. The Spirit King responded, Are you threatening me? Originally, there was a powerful seal between our worlds, but you forcefully smashed through it. Why is it that only you are allowed to smash through our seals while we can't do the same to yours? The evil power doesn't just threaten us, it threatens your world as well. With our current strength, it'll be impossible for us to defeat the evil power individually. If I die first, do you think you can stop the evil power just by yourself? This is why working together is the only choice we have now. It's the only one that allows us to fight for our own people and survive this calamity. Otherwise, both our worlds will go extinct and we might cease to exist as well, said Jian Chen. He was filled with helplessness. His original plan had not been to work with the Spirit King but to devote himself to refining profound sword qi after dealing with the threat of the foreign world. Once he refined a strand of profound sword qi, he was confident he could make it through this calamity with the primordial god silk. However, the evil power had not given him enough time. When Jian Chen learned the method of refining profound sword qi from the sword spirits, he had also learned that both artifacts and techniques were split between the immortal tier and the god tier in the immortals world. All the sword techniques he had used in his fight against the Spirit King were of the immortal tier, because god tier sword techniques and secret techniques could only be grasped by immortal monarchs and immortal monarchs would only be able to use a part of the technique's full power. Of course, there were a few special techniques that didn't follow the rules. Profound sword qi was an extremely special sword technique. It belonged to the god tier, a sword technique that was ranked at the apex of the god tier. It used the vital energies of life as a medium to refine 9 strands of profound sword qi, which were then nurtured in the soul. Practicing the technique did not require the strength of an immortal monarch. All it required was for someone to have reached major achievement of sword origin. Reaching that point was enough to refine the first strand of profound sword qi. Refining all 9 strands would require the highest realm of the way of the sword god. However, since the profound sword qi was a god-tier sword technique, even just the first strand was unimaginably powerful. This was Jian Chen's trump card against the evil power and where his confidence came from. However, he no longer had the time to refine profound sword qi, so he could only negotiate with the Spirit King and work together. After a moment of deliberation, the Spirit King agreed to Jian Chen's suggestion in the end. The two of them called a ceasefire and decided to work together to deal with the evil power. They both could tell that the evil power did not just threaten the Tianyuan continent but the world of Forsaken Saints as well. This peace would only be temporary. A blood-red cloud rose up in the sky above the miniature world constructed by the rock. It dyed the hazy gray space a blood-red color. The surroundings dimmed, as if they had become a cavern of ice. The cloud gave off an evil presence. The blood-red cloud tossed, turned, and blanketed the surroundings. It sent out a chilling, terrifying pulse of energy, causing the world to tremble as large swathes of space collapsed. At the same time, a tremendous formation vaguely appeared. It was shockingly powerful and enveloped the entire world. The formation trembled with great instability due to the churning blood-red cloud. It seemed like it was about to shatter. The blood-red cloud slowly gathered in the center of the miniature world. It transformed constantly, assuming a human form at times, alternating between different genders and ages before switching to a bestial form. It continued to change, turning into plants, rocks, and everything else in the world. It did not have a form, so it could become anything. Finally, the blood-red cloud solidified, assuming the body of a human. It was completely blood-red, as if the body had been condensed from blood. Its face was blurry and unclear. It radiated a terrifyingly cold presence, representing great evil and the will of destruction. This will of destruction did not target any specific person or race. Instead, it targeted everything with life, including the entire world and universe. It was as if it existed for the purpose of destruction. It was the evil power hiding within the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. Da-ha-ha! The blood-red figure produced a strange laughter. The laughter possessed a terrifying power, which was able to penetrate anything. The moment it began to laugh, the surrounding space collapsed and descended into darkness. At the same time, strands of essence that seemed to originate from the world condensed around the blood-red figure before being absorbed by the figure. After losing the essence, the surroundings died, like a lively young man who had all his vitality wrenched out of him. Clearly, the blood-red figure possessed a special innate ability and could devour its surroundings to strengthen itself. Boom! Suddenly, the blood-red figure shot into the sky with lightning-like speed as a streak of red light. It viciously smashed into the formation. With a rumble, the formation immediately collapsed. It had existed for far too long even though it possessed quite the power. Chapter 1607. Evil Spirit. 2/3 of the origin energy gathered in the surroundings vanished the moment the formation shattered. It was absorbed the moment the blood-red figure struck the formation, strengthening the formation's defenses. However, even then, the formation was unable to endure a single attack from the blood-red figure. The formation was not the only thing that shattered. The space that had formed over countless years shattered as well. A storm of destruction swept through the gray space, causing it to descend into darkness. It collapsed so quickly that it was unimaginable. In just a few seconds, the entire place vanished, leaving behind vast, starry depths. The remaining origin energy moved like water through a broke dam, expanding in all directions. The blood-red figure floated in outer space. Its figure was blurry and hazy, as if it had been condensed from a mist of blood. It had no facial features but radiated an extremely cold and evil presence. As the presence spread out, the surrounding stars shook. The blood-red figure produced a strange laugh. It was not true laugh, but a mental pulse. It then looked around at the surrounding space before strands of essence gathered from the surroundings. They were absorbed by the figure. The essence seemed to be the life and vitality of this region, so once this region of space lost its life and vitality, it would wither away rapidly, like plants that had been killed. The essence was not the only thing absorbed, but the origin energy that spread in all directions as well. If an origin realm expert absorbed all the origin energy in the surroundings, their strength would definitely skyrocket. In fact, several origin realm experts could break through, but it had all been absorbed by the blood-red figure, yet it failed to make the blood-red figure's strength increase at all. The figure was just too powerful, so if it wanted to increase its strength, that origin energy was not enough. With a strange laugh, the blood-red figure disappeared with a flash. When it reappeared, it had already crossed a huge distance. It appeared above a planet as its body turned into a dense red mist, which envelopes the planet. From afar, the planet seemed to become red, shining with a demonic, red light. 5 minutes later, the blood-red mist assumed a humanoid figure once again. The planet had died off. Not only had the vegetation on the planet withered away, but all the vitality from the planet itself was also gone. The planet would never be able to produce life ever again. The blood-red figure did not seem to devour the essence of the universe but the vitality of planets themselves. It was the bane of all planets with life, and wherever it passed by, it would enforce a dead silence. The blood-red figure charged off to another planet with life to continue devouring them. As it devoured all life, its strength increased at a gradual rate. Although it was extremely slow, it was still extremely terrifying. If it was allowed to continue, the planets of the universe wouldn't be the only existence that would die. The entire universe would face death too. If cultivators ever attempted to do what the evil presence was doing, they would be punished unless their strength had reached a level where they could go against the laws of the world. However, the blood-red figure did not suffer from this restriction for some special reasons. Soon, several planets had died. If the planets had more time, they might have been able to develop to the point where they had life similar to the Tianyuan continent, but now, they had lost the ability to create life ever again. They were now unable to give birth to life anymore, let alone develop anything like the Tianyuan continent. The blood-red figure seemed to sense something after absorbing the life of several planets. It suddenly turned its head to peer into the depths of space. There, it could sense the presence of life that was even denser than what he had absorbed from the previous planets. The presence of life was like delicious food to this figure, which behaved like a hungry beast, without any ability to hold back. As it continued to laugh strangely, it turned into a streak of red light and shot off, surpassing the speed of light. The space before the figure seemed to fold up as it flew, causing the red streak of light to blink forward every time it broke through a fold. It would cross an extremely vast distance in a single moment. Jian Chen and the Spirit King each occupied half of the shattered moon as they recovered as quickly as they could. Even though the two of them were very heavily injured, they were recovering at an utterly astonishing rate. Jian Chen had his chaotic body and abilities as a Class 9 Radiant Saint Master, while the Spirit King had extremely precious medicine. At this moment, Jian Chen and the Spirit King snapped open their eyes at the same time. They firmly stared into the depths of space. Although they were unable to see anything, the evil power's presence was massive, so they could clearly sense it even from far away. "It's heading over here," Jian Chen sternly exclaimed. The milky white light in which he bathed became even denser as he spoke. He was using even more strands of Radiant Saint Force origin energy to heal. The Spirit King was also grim. After a moment of hesitation, he took out another precious pill and consumed it so that he would be able to heal even faster. The two of them understood that they did not have much time left. They needed to return to their peak conditions in the shortest amount of time possible. In the forbidden grounds of the City Lord's estate in Flame City, Fairy How You also stared into the depths of outer space. She frowned slightly and began to ponder. She said after some hesitation, "Is this presence the evil spirit mentioned in records?" Legend has it that the evil spirit is formed from the filth and evilness in the world. Due to certain reasons, it only appears in lower worlds and is extremely rare. But whenever it does appear, it will cause a calamity for the lower world. It might even end up destroying countless numbers of them. Legend has it that countless years ago, an evil spirit wreaked havoc in lower worlds and devoured several tens of thousands of them. It grew to a point where it could threaten the saints' world, which led to several grand primes working together to kill it. But 3 of them died to the hands of the evil spirit while the other grand primes became heavily injured. In the end, the evil spirit caught the attention of the 7 grand exalts of the saints' world. The evil spirit was only slain when the Anata Grand Prime personally moved. This evil spirit's strength is nowhere near the one from legend, but it's not weak either. Jian Chen and the Spirit King possess the battle prowess akin to early godhood, but they're still not the evil spirit's enemy. This world's in danger. Chapter 1608. Impending crisis. The evil spirit moved in the direction of the Tianyuan continent at full speed through the depths of space. The space in front of it seemed to fold up as it flew, causing the red streak of light to blink forward every time it broke through a fold. It would cross an extremely vast distance in a single moment. Jian Chen and the Spirit King healed as quickly as they could. Their eyes were fixated on the depths of space as they carefully sensed the evil spirit's location. They were grim. The evil spirit moved very quickly, but it was extremely far away from the Tianyuan continent. It would need some time if it wanted to arrive. 6 hours later, Jian Chen recovered from his wounds first and returned to peak condition. However, the Spirit King was not as quick as Jian Chen even after consuming 2 precious pills. He had only healed half his wounds. The Spirit King looked at Jian Chen again when Jian Chen had completely healed. There was some uncontainable shock on his face. He knew that Jian Chen healed very quickly, but he had never thought Jian Chen would heal so fast. He had used 6 short hours to recover from such heavy wounds. "Shan Jian, you heal too slowly. We don't have much time left, so I'll help you out." Jian Chen stood up and spoke from very far away. Afterward, he took a step into the air and walked over, arriving before the Spirit King in just a few steps. The origin energy of Class 9 Radiant Saint Force condensed in his hand before he slowly pressed it against the Spirit King's shoulder. The Spirit King was cautious, but he did not turn down Jian Chen's good intentions. However, his caution did not decrease at all. Even when he was covered with a dense, gentle, milky white light, he did not relax in the slightest. The Spirit King could clearly feel that his wounds were actually healing much faster than with just the pills alone. This secretly shocked him. Only now did he really sense just how powerful Radiant Saint Force origin energy was. Although the power did not possess many offensive capabilities, its rate of healing was equivalent to consuming a divine pill. The Spirit King made a full recovery very quickly with Jian Chen's assistance. It was also at this time that Jian Chen took out the God-slaying formation scroll he had obtained in the foreign world from his space ring. He said, "Since this is called the God-slaying formation, it must be something designed to kill gods. Shen Jian, you know this God-slaying formation better than me. If you get all the Origin Realm experts from the world of Forsaken Saints to work with all the Origin Realm experts from my world, how much power can it display?" The Spirit King looked at the scroll and said, "Since the God-slaying formation is with you, Ouyang Yangwen must have used it against you. You should also understand the power of the formation. Although the formation can easily kill God Kings if all of its power is displayed, the strength it requires to kill a God King incredible. Now that Ouyang Yangwen is dead, my world has lost a reciprocity expert. Even if all the elders and protectors from my world work with your Origin Realm experts, it'll probably be very difficult to reach the level of godhood. The gap between the Origin Realm and godhood is extremely large and cannot be overcome so easily. We've only been able to achieve our stores by comprehending the way of the sword. Looks like only the 2 of us can take part in this battle. No one else will be able to help," Jian Chen said gruffly. The upcoming battle was one that belonged to the realm of godhood. Origin Realm experts would not have the power to take part. Triggering the power of the God-slaying formation depended on cultivation, and had nothing to do with battle prowess. Jian Chen and the Spirit King were both at reciprocity in terms of cultivation, so if they activated the God-slaying formation, the power demonstrated would roughly be the same as their regular battle prowess. After a moment of silence, Jian Chen continued, This is a crisis of the world. If we can make it through, our worlds will continue to thrive, but if we can't, then both our worlds will be completely annihilated. We've basically reached the end of the line now. We have to use everything we have in these desperate times. The god-slaying formation may not be able to kill gods, but it might be of great use at a certain crucial time. The Spirit King could obviously understand what Jian Chen was saying. He wanted to get all the origin realm experts of the two worlds and maybe even some saint emperors to use the god-slaying formation. As this was related to the survival of the two worlds, the Spirit King obviously did not mind. He stood up and said, "You're right. I'll go to the world of Forsaken Saints to get all the elders and protectors. You can handle your origin realm experts." With that, the Spirit King left, directly heading back to the world of Forsaken Saints. Time was tight right now. They did not have much time left now, so they needed to get everything prepared as soon as possible. Jian Chen also left, but he did not return to the Tianyuan continent. Instead, he went to the world of Forsaken Saints with the Spirit King because Shangguan Mu'er was still there. When Jian Chen and the Spirit King passed through, Shangguan Mu'er was still fighting against the elders and protectors. They fought an extremely intense battle, causing the world mountains to constantly tremble. The entire world had darkened from the fighting. The simultaneous return of Jian Chen and the Spirit King stopped the battle very soon. Without saying much, Jian Chen immediately left the world of Forsaken Saints with Shangguan Mu'er. "Jian Chen, how did your battle with the Spirit King go?" As they traveled through the tunnel, Shangguan Mu'er looked at Jian Chen in concern. Jian Chen gently held Shangguan Mu'er's hand in the tunnel. He grimly said, "We ended in a draw, but it's no longer about the battle against the foreign world anymore. The evil power in the Yinyang Saint Rock has broken free early and is currently heading toward the Tianyuan continent. We're currently facing an unprecedented crisis. I've struck an agreement with the Spirit King already. We will work together against the evil power." Shangguan Mu'er's face suddenly changed. She was familiar with the evil power sealed in the Yinyang Saint Rock. No matter how much her strength had increased, she always felt chills whenever she was near it. This was still the case even though she was at the peak of mid-reciprocity right now. Chapter 1609. Working together, Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er returned to the Tianyuan continent. A deafening cheer came from the experts of the four races the moment they appeared. They did not know about the situation of the foreign world, nor did they know whether Jian Chen emerged victorious or not. However, they had seen just how intense their human sovereign had fought against the Spirit King. The shattered moon was the best evidence. No one knew who ended up victorious in the fight between Jian Chen and the Spirit King, including the Origin Realm experts, but they all knew that Jian Chen was now powerful enough to stand up to the Spirit King. Their Tianyuan continent had truly gained the power to keep the world of Forsaken Saints at bay. Jian Chen extended his hands and made the crowd quiet down. He did not say much and only commanded all the Origin Realm experts of the four races to gather in the Supreme Divine Hall. Jian Chen told all the Origin Realm experts about the evil power, without hiding anything at all, in the Supreme Divine Hall, causing the silence of death to sink in. All their joy and excitement had vanished in a single moment. "We've also sensed the presence from deep outer space. I never thought it would be a crisis of the world," Feng Xiaotian said sternly. "The power is very great. Even with my battle prowess at godhood, I am not confident I can defeat it, so I've struck an alliance with the Spirit King to face it with the power of two worlds," Jian Chen said grimly as he slowly glanced at everyone. The Divine Hall immediately fell silent. Everyone looked at each other. Many of them found this to mirror a drama. They had started out as mortal enemies with the world of Forsaken Saints, yet in the blink of an eye, they had to work together. The changes were so great that they would find it hard to adapt for some time. However, most of them remained silent because of the impending crisis. The existence of the crisis would force the two worlds to temporarily put their differences aside and work together. They had to stand together, making it quite obvious just how terrifying the crisis was. "Jian Chen, the fur of the winged tiger god contains a great secret. You can use it to comprehend Mo Tianyun's way of slaughter. It's just been a pity that we've tried comprehending it for years, yet no one's gained anything. Your talent is better than ours, so if you comprehend the way of slaughter, you should have a better chance against the evil power," said Houston. He also mentioned the shocking secret that maybe Mo Tianyun was the winged tiger god. "Big brother. It's with me. I'll give it you. Xiao Ling passed the white fur to Jian Chen. Jian Chen accepted the white beast fur. As his soul entered it, his consciousness was immediately taken to the world within, experiencing the same thing that Houston and the others had gone through. Jian Chen's consciousness slowly returned to him a while later. Even though what he saw inside surprised him slightly, he remained extremely calm. What surprised him was the way of slaughter that Mo Tianyun had left in the beast fur, and not the possibility that Mo Tianyun was the winged tiger god. Jian Chen had already stumbled across the possibility long ago. He had searched through a large number of records in the Chongyang Protector clan to understand Mo Tianyun. In the end, he slowly deduced that Mo Tianyun might have been the winged tiger god, except he could never prove it. No wonder Xiao Ling suddenly said that I had Mo Tianyun's presence when I first visited Mercenary City. I had not met Mo Tianyun back then, and the only thing that was somewhat special was that white beast fur. The white beast fur bears Mo Tianyun's presence, which is why Xiao Ling had mistaken me and thought I possessed Mo Tianyun's presence, thought Jian Chen. Now, he really felt rather glad that he had taken the beast fur that had been passed down through the Bai family into Mercenary City back then. The beast fur was the reason he ended up meeting Xiao Ling. I went to Mercenary City again after adopting the white tiger, and Xiao Ling said that Mo Tianyun's presence on me had become heavier. Looks like that was due to the white tiger. The white tiger's presence might be extremely similar to Mo Tianyun, or maybe exactly the same. After that, the white tiger slowly grew up and learned how to keep its presence concealed. So Xiao Ling was unable to sense anything when the white tiger was present before Xiao Ling. Even if she did sense it, she wouldn't have thought too much about it with her childlike mentality. Through the secret hidden within the beast fur, Jian Chen was even more certain that Mo Tianyun was the winged tiger god. However, he also knew that no matter how certain he was, the truth could not be confirmed until there was evidence. Jian Chen, is it difficult for you to comprehend Mo Tianyun's way of slaughter? Houston stared at Jian Chen. They, the Origin Realm experts, would not be useful during this crisis. They all had to rely on Jian Chen, so they all wished that Jian Chen could become even more powerful at such a crucial time. Jian Chen carefully folded up the beast fur and replied in a deep voice, "If you give me some time, I can comprehend the way of slaughter, but the evil power will descend on the Tianyuan continent very soon. There's not nearly enough time." Jian Chen sighed inside. He felt extremely helpless. His greatest trump card would be the profound sword Qi. He was confident that once he refined the first strand, his battle prowess would increase even more than if he comprehended the way of slaughter. Unfortunately, he just did not have the time. He did not even have the time to use a comprehension tea leaf. At this moment, violent energy suddenly spewed out from the tunnel connecting the two worlds. The tunnel suddenly began to tremble at that moment as well. Figures flickered in the depths of the tunnel as they slowly headed toward the Tianyuan continent. Oh now! The people from the world of Forsaken Saints are invading again. What? Those bastards are coming again? Humph. Do they really think that our Tianyuan continent is a public park and that they can come and go as they please? What are you afraid of? Don't forget that we now have Sovereign Jian Chen. Sovereign Jian Chen is no weaker than the Spirit King, so we don't need to fear the foreign world anymore. The changes to the tunnel were discovered as soon as they happened. The experts of the four races gathered on the Tianyuan continent did not pale in fear as if they were facing an apocalypse. Instead, they were all brimming with high spirits. They showed no fear at all as they all roared with battle intent. They rapidly got into formation, ready to receive the unwelcome guests. Very soon, all the people exited the tunnel and appeared in the Tianyuan continent. There were not many of them, only around 40, but every single one of them gave off a terrifying presence. The surroundings shook even though they were just standing. The fighters in the surroundings all became stunned at this sight. Their faces all changed. All the people who had emerged were Origin Realm experts. "Quick, report to Sovereign Jian Chen," someone immediately exclaimed. However, before he had finished speaking, Jian Chen and the Origin Realm experts all emerged from the Supreme Divine Hall. Their appearance immediately made the people of the four races let out a sigh of relief. Chapter 1610. The power of two worlds. Jian Chen's appearance filled the sainthood experts with confidence after the several dozen Origin Realm experts from the foreign world appeared. The people who had originally surrounded the foreign Origin Realm experts all retreated behind Jian Chen as quickly as they could. They all understood that they would be of no help at all with their insignificant strength against Origin Realm experts. Just the shockwaves of battle between Origin Realm experts could injure them. At a time like this, they could only rely on the Origin Realm experts on their side. Many experts among the four races were eager for their human sovereign to engage in another great battle in outer space with the Spirit King because a battle at godhood was just too fascinating for them, mere sainthood experts. It would really benefit their future cultivation if they could witness such a great battle. Unexpectedly, neither Jian Chen, the Spirit King, nor the Origin Realm experts showed any hostility. From how it looked, none of them seemed to be planning to fight, which immediately filled everyone with doubt. At this moment, the Spirit King took a step forward from the side of the world of Forsaken Saints. He appeared before Jian Chen like he had teleported and directly extended his hand. He said, "Give me the God-slaying formation. The protectors and elders from my world have already comprehended it for some time now, so their understanding is far greater than the Origin Realm experts of your world. I will let the protectors and elders take the lead in casting down the formation this time. Your Origin Realm experts only need to contribute Origin energy for support." Jian Chen did not hesitate and passed the God-slaying formation to the Spirit King. The formation was extremely precious, but personal gains would amount to nothing before a crisis of the world. If they could not make it through the crisis, the world would be reduced to nothing. The Tian Yuan continent and the world of Forsaken Saints had stopped fighting now and called a ceasefire. All of the Origin Realm experts had to put aside their personal grievances and work together to comprehend the God-slaying formation. All of them understood the severity of the matter. There was an immediate uproar when the sainthood experts learned about the ceasefire between the two worlds. Some people agreed with the decision while other people opposed it. Even though they did not directly express their thoughts, they displayed their resentment in their hearts through their gazes. Their family and friends had died to the hands of the foreign experts, so they obviously resented working together. However, the people unhappy with the matter gradually accepted the reality of things when Jian Chen announced the crisis of the world and explained how severe it was. The Origin Realm experts of the two worlds appeared polite and peaceful on the surface as they comprehended the God-slaying formation together, but they did not get along completely. Many of them still held grudges for one another. The elders and protectors on Ouyang Yongwen's side, in particular, all felt some resentment for this world, especially since they had been close to the elder Jian Chen had killed on the Tian Yuan continent in the past. They dared not to find Jian Chen to resolve their anger, so they shifted it onto the other Origin Realm experts from the Tian Yuan continent. Even though they could not do anything due to the Spirit King's strict orders, they would make things difficult or make fun of the people from the Tian Yuan continent whenever they had the chance as they comprehended the formation. "We're working with you because of the crisis, not because we fear you. If you want to keep acting like that, don't blame me for ignoring the temporary truce and being merciless." Shangguan Mu'er walked over from afar. Her voice was very cold and bore icy killing intent. She was warning all the Origin Realm experts from the foreign world. She did not take part in the comprehension of the God-slaying formation since she was skilled with the zither, making her the bane of souls. She might be of more use by assisting on the side. Shangguan Mu'er had fought against several dozen Origin Realm experts all by herself, so the battle had cemented her prestige. All the elders and protectors from the other world shut up and fear flooded their eyes. The people who were making trouble all revealed different expressions and immediately stopped talking, behaving like mutes. The Origin Realm experts were immediately surprised by the sight of this. Their opinions of Shangguan Mu'er all changed. At the same time, Saint Emperors constantly flew out from the tunnel connecting the two worlds. They all arrived on the Tian Yuan continent with concealed presences, rapidly falling into place to create an extraordinarily powerful formations. Soon afterward, the sainthood experts from the Tian Yuan continent also moved under Jian Chen's orders. They all stood in great formations in the sky, and had brought out the 7 ancestral artifacts from the protector clans as well. They were about to face an impending crisis, so both the Tian Yuan continent and the world of Forsaken Saints had brought out everything they had. Although the formations from the sainthood experts would not be of much use, neither world had a choice now. They could not let any power slide through their fingers, no matter how weak it was. The Supreme Divine Hall from Mercenary City hovered high in the sky, also ready for battle at any moment. However, the Supreme Divine Hall was primarily defensive and the crisis required active offense, not defense, to destroy its source. As a result, the Divine Hall was unable to be of much use in the upcoming battle. Pure defense was unable to solve the problem, and maintaining the divine hall also required an extremely tremendous amount of energy. They would much rather use that power to deal with the crisis. In just half a day, the sainthood experts of the two worlds completed all preparations. They created countless formations in the sky, and even the several dozen origin realm experts had gained a limited understanding of the god-slaying formation, forming a solid line of defenses. Jian Chen and the Spirit King sat in the air as well. They were at the front lines, currently conditioning themselves to their peak state and preparing for battle. Jian Chen held the golden silk mail woven from primordial god silk. He seemed to be in thought as he looked at it. He knew the primordial god silk existed for the crisis, but it had not reacted at all now that the source of the crisis had appeared. Chapter 1611. A Bloody Battle Against the Evil Spirit. 1. The primordial god silk was extremely mysterious. When Jian Chen had first obtained it, it could only block attacks from saint rulers. It was insignificant against attacks from saint kings. Although a saint king's attack would not be able to rupture the primordial god silk, the silk was unable to absorb such power, so Jian Chen was still hit with the force of the attack. The force would have been enough to jolt him to pieces when he was still weak. The primordial god silk worked exactly the same as before. It could only stop attacks from saint rulers, but it was so tough that his battle prowess at godhood could not damage it at all. The large amounts of Xianhuang qi it had absorbed in the Xianhuang microcosm seemed to have completely settled into the silk as well. Primordial god silk. O primordial god silk. The crisis of the world has already appeared, so why do you still not show your might? You were born to deal with the crisis, Jian Chen mumbled as he stared at the primordial god silk in his hands. He began to secretly worry as he sensed the evil power rapidly approach them. Jian Chen had studied the primordial god silk for a very long time back in the space created by the Yinyang Saint Rock. Unfortunately, he had found nothing. He had asked the sword spirits as well, but even the sword spirits had no idea how to get the primordial god silk to display its might. Although they had seen a few treasures forged from primordial god silk in the immortals' world, the people in possession of them were not the first owners. Instead, they had obtained them through various methods, including killing and stealing. They obviously did not know how the primordial god silk would deal with the crisis. A terrifying pressure shook outer space, causing the stars to darken. The evil power approached the Tianyuan continent at an unbelievable speed. It had used a single day to reach the Tianyuan continent from the depths of space. Both Jian Chen and the Spirit King could now clearly see a smear of demonic red light in the distant space. The red light expanded at an unbelievable rate as the evil power approached the planet. In just a few seconds, it seemed to have become a scorching sun, shining with a blinding red light that dyed the entire sky red. Dahahaha. Sustenance. Sustenance. My sustenance. All of my sustenance. I will become even more powerful by devouring you. An extremely powerful idea expanded from the red light, sweeping across all of space. Not only did Jian Chen and the Spirit King sense it, but all the people on the Tianyuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Wasteland continent, and the Sea Realm sensed the idea as well, causing countless people's expressions to change. They paled in a single moment and hundreds of millions of people vomited blood. Their eyes became completely bloodshot and a few weaker people even bled from all their orifices. The looked terrifying. All the mortals among the four races who did not cultivate tilted their heads and fell unconscious. There were even many people whose heads exploded. In a single moment, the four races entered a state of mass panic. Countless mortals fainted and countless fighters became injured as well. The sainthood experts from the two worlds who stood in formation in the sky all became extremely grim. They were not injured, but they felt like their heads were being split open, as if a nail was being driven into their soul, making it ache. The several dozen origin realm experts from the two worlds became extremely ugly. What happened on the Tianyuan continent could not escape their senses. The evil power had only let out a single idea, but it had already caused so much destruction. This shocked all of them. The evil power was far greater than they could have imagined. Can Jian Chen and the Spirit King destroy this evil power? At this moment, a similar thought appeared in the heads of all the origin realm experts. They had not started fighting yet, but they had already witnessed how terrifying the evil power was. They began to doubt whether or not Jian Chen and the Spirit King could deal with this crisis, because this crisis was so terrifying that it seemed much greater than both Jian Chen and the Spirit King. However, They did not shrink back at all, no matter how much despair they felt, since there was no way out. The only hope for them was to face it head-on and squeeze out a chance for survival. Jian Chen and the Spirit King both stood up. They stared sternly ahead before moving at the same time. Their bodies became swords as they radiated a surging sword intent, charging toward the evil power at the speed of lightning. As they charged toward the evil power, Fairy Hao Yu was feeling conflicted inside the bright moon divine hall. She murmured to herself, "There's less than a 10% chance that this world will survive the crisis. With Jian Chen's and the Spirit King's strength, they'll only be able to keep the evil spirit busy for some time, which won't be very long. Once the two of them fall, the evil spirit will move against all forms of life on this planet. Even I won't be able to survive in my current form. Do I have to use the forbidden technique to leave here in the end?" Fairy Hao Yu hesitated. She would be protected from the evil spirit if she used her forbidden technique and could even return to the saint's world, but the price be too much. The price was so drastic that she was willing to give up her body and live as a soul for over 10,000 years just to avoid using it. "I'm too weak right now. I don't have a body, nor do I have moonlight force. My soul will disintegrate even if it's just fleeing from here if I use the forbidden technique." Fairy Hao Yu sighed. Her face was filled with helplessness. She did not consider her disciple, Yu Yu, at all. She had only accepted Yu Yu because Jian Chen's talent had caught her eye. She wanted to form a bond with Jian Chen through Yu Yu so that she could pay a small price or even nothing to leave this place when Jian Chen ventured to the saint's world in the future. She had never thought that this world would face a crisis at this very moment, destroying her plans. When the evil spirit was coming to attack, it had disturbed the laws of the world as well, making it impossible for the passage to the saint's world to be opened, so she could not return to the saint's world by herself even if she paid a price for the forbidden technique. Jian Chen wielded the Ziying sword while shrouded by a layer of dense violet light. He charged into the red light as a violet comet. Beside him, the Spirit King wielded the Cloud Stream sword. He seemed to have become a huge sword as he charged into the red light with Jian Chen. The two of them moved with full power to fend off the evil power around them. The two of them charged into the blinding red light while a blurry figure hovered in the center of the light. It radiated the icy cold presence of evil. With a strange laughter, the blurry figure that seemed to be condensed from mist slowly raised its hands toward Jian Chen and the Spirit King. At that moment, an endless amount of blood-red mist spewed out, enveloping Jian Chen and the Spirit King. Chapter 1612, A Bloody Battle Against the Evil Spirit, 2. The blood-red mist was extremely evil, filled with a presence that could cause people to shiver without being physically cold. Within the blood-red mist, a bone-chilling coldness seemed to attack Jian Chen and the Spirit King. It penetrated their defensive glow and approached their skin before entering their bodies. Blood stopped flowing, and all signs of life were frozen wherever the coldness passed. Even their limbs became stiff. At that moment, both of them felt stiff all over. Their movements became sluggish. Their battle prowess at godhood was puny before the cold presence. However, their expressions changed once again. They could feel the cold presence devour the signs of life in their bodies as well as their vital energies. They experienced a feeling of weakness as their vitality and vital energies were devoured, which made their hearts sink. They knew that the evil power was extremely powerful, so powerful that it would be difficult for them to face it together. However, they had never expected it to be so terrifying. They had already fallen into such a horrible position as soon as they came into contact with it. Suddenly, Jian Chen roared, and eighth-layer chaotic force surged out of his chaotic Niden. He used his chaotic force to repel the icy presence. At the same time, the twin swords exploded with light, shining like two suns. The Qing Suo sword expanded as it flew, growing to 3,000 meters in length in a single moment. Under the control of Jian Chen's soul, it shot off as a resplendent streak of light, heading into the mist with a seemingly unstoppable force. The attack from the Qing Suo sword was enough to destroy worlds, but the thin-looking layer of mist only shook slightly before restabilizing. Not only had the attack failed to penetrate the mist around Jian Chen, but it had even failed to deal much damage at all. At this moment, Jian Chen's eyes suddenly narrowed. He lowered his head to glance at the primordial god silk, which he had been holding in his left hand for the entire time. It still had not shown any reactions. Determination flooded his eyes. Gripping the Ziying sword, his presence erupted as he cried out, "Daluo sword." With that, a golden sword chi rapidly condensed. The sword chi possessed extremely terrifying power, causing the surrounding space to collapse from the attack's frightening pressure as soon as it had condensed. The sword chi then shot out with a golden flash. It moved extremely quickly, seeming to break free from the restrictions of space. It appeared before the red layer of mist in a single moment and heavily slammed into it. Boom! The golden sword chi immediately disappeared after the collision. It turned into a terrifying force that tried to rip through the red mist. However, the mist possessed unimaginable power. It endured the attack, and despite churning violently, it showed no signs of dispersing. Jian Chen coldly stared at the churning mist. Extending 2 fingers like a sword, he used the Daluo sword once again. Immediately, a second strand of golden sword chi condensed before his chest. It hurtled toward the red mist like a streak of lightning as well. Both attacks were as powerful as attacks from a godhood expert. The thin layer of mist finally gave way after enduring 2 Daluo swords from Jian Chen. His attacks had ripped open a hole that was 3 meters wide. Jian Chen immediately charged through it. At the same time, there was a boom nearby. The Spirit King had broken free from the cage-like red mist as well, charging out at the same time as Jian Chen. You can actually break free? It's me who has underestimated you, but it doesn't matter. The outcome will all be the same. Sustenance will remain sustenance. Bohaha. An idea swept out with some surprise. The blood-red figure hovered nearby as it let out a demonic red light, which illuminated the surroundings and turned them blood-red. All the essence in the surroundings rapidly gathered. The figure was devouring the essence of the universe right now. The surrounding planets had their essence siphoned away as strands of energy. The planets withered at a visible rate. The stars themselves did not wither, but all forms of life on them were. In the end, the planets gradually became gray and lifeless. Jian Chen and the Spirit King shivered when they saw the evil spirit use its ability to devour the lives of planets. At that moment, both of them became determined. They would prevent the evil spirit from approaching the Tianyuan continent. Otherwise, the Tianyuan continent would die and the world of Forsaken Saints would not be able to avoid the same fate. Tai sword technique. Jian Chen called out. His body and soul fused with his sword, and he seemed to have become a sword himself. As he radiated with a surging presence, he made the surroundings collapse and the stars tremor. He shot toward the evil spirit as a resplendent streak of light, shining as bright as the sun. Formbreaker. At the same time, the Spirit King's sword erupted with extremely dense origin energy. He used a sword technique that specialized in destroying anything with a form. He charged at the evil spirit with Jian Chen. The evil spirit only raised its hand when it noticed their attacks. The moment it raised its hand, the mist suddenly converged into a huge hand that was completely blood-red. Although the huge hand was condensed from the red mist and should not have been physical, the hand had consolidated into something tangible. The evil spirit sent the hand toward Jian Chen and the Spirit King. Boom! Boom! Colliding with the blood-red hand, Jian Chen and the Spirit King immediately produced heavy thuds. Both Jian Chen and the Spirit King felt like they had struck bedrock with their attacks, resulting in a powerful jolt. Not only had their attacks failed to damage the hand, but the hand had also struck them viciously, causing them to vomit blood and fly away in horrible shape. The moment they came into contact with the hand, a sliver of an evil force penetrated their bodies and began devouring their vital energies. At the same time, the evil energy came into contact with the primordial god silk in Jian Chen's left hand. When it invaded Jian Chen's body, it invaded the silk as well. However, the moment the evil force invaded the primordial god silk, the silk flickered with a golden luster. The flicker seemed to indicate the awakening of a vicious beast. Gradually, the primordial god silk began to shine with more and more golden light. Instantly, the primordial god silk became wrapped up in a soft glow. Its spiritual power had finally been awakened. Chapter 1613, A Bloody Battle Against the Evil Spirit, 3. As Jian Chen was blown back, his body crackled all over. The sounds came from his bones, and with a few crisp cracks, some of his bones snapped. The evil presence remained within his body, devouring his vital energies and life force, causing his own presence to rapidly weaken. The evil presence was extremely powerful, where even his chaotic body at the 8th layer struggled to stop its rampage. The Spirit King suffered similar wounds. His body was covered in blood and many of his bones were broken. The life and vital energies in his body were rapidly being devoured by the evil presence, causing his own presence to weaken as well. What cultivation realm has the evil power reached? It's so powerful. How are we supposed to defeat it? The Spirit King was astounded. He had gained an even clearer understanding of the evil spirit's strength from the clash just then. It was an undefeatable existence. It had already surpassed deity, or it would not have heavily injured both him and Jian Chen so easily. Jian Chen was also filled with despair. He had never underestimated the evil spirit, but only not that he had truly fought against it did he understand just how powerful it was. The evil spirit was so terrifying that even if he refined his profound sword qi, he still might not have been its opponent. At this moment, Jian Chen saw a ball of dazzling golden light, which immediately made his eyes narrow. He glanced at the primordial god silk in his left hand, and only now did he discover, to his joy, that the power hidden within the primordial god silk had begun to awaken. Flames of hope immediately reignited in his downcast heart due to the awakening of the primordial god silk. At the same time, strands of powerful silk radiated out and circulated through Jian Chen's body. Wherever they passed by, the evil presence would immediately disperse. The silk's power was not particularly great and it did not possess any powerful defensive properties, but it just happened to be the bane of the evil presence. The primordial god silk was created exactly for this crisis, so it was fated to fend off this crisis. As the evil presence was purged, Jian Chen immediately felt his body lighten. His weakening presence gradually strengthened. However, the vital energies and life force that had been absorbed earlier completely vanished. None of them were left behind, so Jian Chen still felt a sense of weakness, as if his power had been drained. I understand now. The primordial god silk requires the stimulation of the evil power to awaken what is hiding inside. Jian Chen's eyes lit up. Without any hesitation, he immediately used the origin energy from Class 9 Radiant Saint Force to heal himself. He then quickly arrived before the Spirit King and pressed the primordial god silk against his body, having the silk purge the evil presence from the Spirit King as well. What is this treasure? It's so effective. The Spirit King immediately became surprised when he sensed the evil presence within him vanish. He stared at the glowing silk with great interest. This is a sacred object for repelling the crisis. Whether we can survive will all depend on it. Shen Jian, you stand guard here. I'll go and use this to deal with it. Jian Chen gave a simple explanation. He then tightly gripped the primordial god silk with his left hand and used the linear lightning release with his right hand. He shot toward the evil spirit as a bolt of lightning at an unbelievable speed. The golden light from the primordial god silk became brighter and more resplendent as Jian Chen rapidly approached the evil spirit. There was a slight, desolate ray of yellow light among the golden glow as well. It was the Xianhuang Qi the primordial god silk had absorbed from the Xianhuang microcosm. What a detestable presence. I hate this presence. Food go die. An idea pulsed from the evil spirit. It carried a feeling of irritation. The presence from the primordial god silk made the evil spirit feel uneasy. It felt greatly threatened and subconsciously wanted to avoid the primordial god silk. However, the evil spirit was rather clever as well. In its eyes, both Jian Chen and the Spirit King were only food. It would not be frightened away by food. Its body immediately dispersed and turned into a sea of blood that blotted out the sun. It wrapped around Jian Chen as a huge net. This time, the evil spirit used all its power. Not only did it want to devour Jian Chen, but it also wanted to devour the primordial god silk, which it felt threatened by. Jian Chen entered a world of blood. He held the primordial god silk as electricity crackled around him. He shot through the bloody world as a lightning bolt, crossing several hundred kilometers in a single moment. He moved unbelievable fast. Wherever he moved, the surrounding liquid disappeared, evaporating away and leaving a long tunnel behind him. Of course, the disappearance of the liquid had nothing to do with him. It was all because of the primordial god silk, which had absorbed all of the liquid. It was just that the blood-like liquid seemed endless. Jian Chen shot through the liquid at the speed of lightning, so fast that he could traverse several hundred kilometers in a single moment, but he still did not break free from the liquid even after he finished casting the linear lightning release. What is this? It's devouring my power. A mental pulse from the evil spirit rang in Jian Chen's head at this moment. It was furious. I am the Lord of Devouring. There isn't anything in the universe I can't devour. Everything is my sustenance, yet you devour my power. Let's see who devours who in the end. The evil spirit roared. The sea of blood that it had formed began to churn because of its roar. It had turned into a huge whirlpool that rapidly swirled. Jian Chen just happened to be at its center. Jian Chen felt the life and vital energies in his body drain away at an unbelievably rapid rate as soon as the whirlpool formed. In an instant, he had lost as much as 1/10 of his life force and vital energies. The feeling of weakness became even greater as strands of gray hair appeared in his black hair. Jian Chen was shocked. The evil power devoured just too quickly. With his current strength, he was helpless against the devouring force. He was a sitting duck, waiting to be butchered. He could last half a minute at most before he would pass away from losing all his life force. The primordial god silk seemed to be stimulated even more. The power hidden inside began to fully awaken. It radiated a dazzling golden light, which was the bane of the evil spirit. The evil spirit was extremely powerful, but it could do nothing about the light. On the other hand, Jian Chen became enveloped by the golden light and he felt like he had entered a whole different world. He was completely cut off from outside. The devouring force from the evil spirit could not get to him. The primordial god silk that had been woven into armor began to unweave itself, turning into long strands of golden silk that stabbed into the depths of the sea of blood. They let out blinding, resplendent lights as all the power sleeping inside was awakened. The sea of blood immediately began to churn. The evil spirit furiously roared as it spoke through mental pulses. This damned presence is suppressing me. God damn it. If I hadn't wasted so much power on that bastard, how would this damned presence keep me suppressed, let alone injure me? The evil spirit angrily bellowed. The sea of blood rapidly began to shrink, and no longer seemed to be under the evil spirit's control. Strands of golden light would flash in the sea of blood as it violently churned. Chapter 16:14. A bloody battle against the evil spirit. 4. The vast sea of blood churned and rapidly shrank. A dazzling light could be seen from time to time. Vaguely, golden strands seemed to weave through the sea of blood like worms. The sea of blood did not seem to be shrinking per its own accord, so there was a violent struggle in the process. However, no matter how it struggled and resisted, it was all useless. At the same time, the sea of blood stopped absorbing the essence of the universe, as if the awakening of the primordial god silk's power had suppressed even that. In the end, the sea of blood reformed into the figure that Jian Chen and the Spirit King had seen at first. It was 9 meters tall and completely blood-red. It possessed the features of a human, except its face was a blur, making it seem faceless. A long, golden strand transformed from the primordial god silk wrapped around the blood-red figure with a dazzling glow. Under the radiance of the silk, the figure sizzled as blood-red mist disappeared at a visible rate. The primordial god silk was very effective against the evil spirit. It could literally be described as a born killer of the evil spirit. As a result, the evil spirit was immediately suppressed, despite being so powerful that it defeated even Jian Chen and the Spirit King in a single move. A dense layer of radiant saint force surrounded Jian Chen as he hovered afar. As he healed, he also stared at the primordial god silk with hope. He could immediately see the light of victory after witnessing just how weak the evil spirit was before the primordial god silk. The Spirit King flew over from afar and consumed a pill, taking advantage of every moment to heal. He sternly stared at the golden threads around the evil spirit and said with a gruff voice, "I never thought you would have such a powerful treasure. Can this treasure destroy it? This is a sacred object born for the crisis of the world. It doesn't matter if it can destroy this evil power, but it's the only thing we can count on right now," Jian Chen replied solemnly. Originally, they had the god-slaying formation, but after witnessing the strength of the evil spirit, he understood that it would be completely useless unless he could erupt with all the power the god-slaying formation could offer. However, the cultivation level requirement for the formation was extremely high if they wanted to display such power. Just the several dozen Origin Realm experts from the 2 worlds were far from enough. On the other hand, the 3 supreme treasures from the world of Forsaken Saints were called supreme treasures because they could be used to deal with an Origin Realm expert, which were the apex in that world. Every single one of them reigned supreme, so the supreme treasures truly were worthy of their name since they could deal with such experts. However, Using them against the evil spirit would be completely futile. At this moment, a chillingly and terrifying power suddenly appeared. It caused all the stars to tremor and darken. The evil spirit trapped within the primordial god Silk had begun its counterattack. Under the restraint of the primordial god Silk, it rapidly began to expand, becoming 3,000 meters tall in a single moment. As the evil spirit swelled, the primordial god Silk became taut. Its golden light flickered, keeping the evil spirit firmly trapped like a great net. As soon as its golden light struck the evil power, it actually vaporized the evil power. At the same time, the evil spirit's ability to devour everything had completely vanished under the primordial god Silk's restraint. Shen Jian, let's attack it as hard as we can and weaken its power, just in case it breaks free from the primordial god Silk, Jian Chen said seriously. He immediately moved with the Spirit King, dealing attacks with his full power at the trapped evil spirit. The evil spirit had become a sitting duck now that the primordial god Silk restrained it. It was unable to fight back at all against Jian Chen and the Spirit King's attacks. A will that splits the heavens. The sword shakes and stars shatter. The Spirit King bellowed out. He directly stabbed the Spirit King through the gaps between the primordial god Silk with his metal sword. As the sword tremored, it immediately produced rings of visible ripples. The ripples possessed extremely terrifying power. They could shatter stars, so the evil spirit's mist-like body immediately churned under the expansion of the ripples. Wherever the ripples passed by, the surrounding mist would dull in color. Tai sword technique. At the same time, Jian Chen moved as well. Without any hesitation, he stabbed the evil spirit as hard as he could. Jian Chen and the Spirit King would never have been able to injure the evil spirit if the primordial god Silk did not restrain and suppress it. However, now that primordial god Silk suppressed it, it was unable to use any strength at all, so it suffered from their attacks. However, their actions had completely infuriated the evil spirit. An extremely violent power immediately expanded, sweeping through the stars and making space ripple. The evil spirit swelled even larger as it secretly charged up a terrifying power. It planned to smash through the primordial god Silk in a single strike. The primordial god Silk was completely taut as it shone with a dazzling golden light. Even though it did all within its power to keep the evil spirit restrained, it gradually lost the upper hand as the evil spirit's power rapidly strengthened. The primordial god Silk is still ownerless. Once the power inside fully awakens, you can refine it. Master, this is the best moment. Quickly refine the primordial god Silk. Then control its power to deal with the crisis. The crisis this time is unimaginably powerful due to the influence of the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. The sword spirit's voices suddenly rang in Jian Chen's head. A gleam of light flashed through Jian Chen's eyes. Without any hesitation, he asked the sword spirits for the method of refinement. Then he arrived before the evil spirit with a single step. He bit the tip of his tongue and sprayed out a mouthful of essence blood onto the primordial god Silk. Afterwards, he closed his eyes and sent his consciousness into the primordial god Silk to refine it. Chapter 16:15. A bloody battle against the evil spirit. 5. A primordial god Silkworm had used all its vital energies that had descended in the face of a crisis that threatened an entire world to weave the primordial god Silk. As a result, the primordial god Silk was one of the supreme treasures in the world. It was extremely rare and precious. Once the powers inside fully awakened, it would not be easy for Jian Chen to refine it with his current strength. He would need quite a long time against its resistance. However, as the primordial god Silk was fulfilling its reason of existence, using its power against the evil spirit, it could not resist. As a result, Jian Chen's refinement of the primordial god Silk was extraordinarily successfully, advancing at an exceedingly rapid rate. A while later, Jian Chen completely refined the primordial god Silk through the method he had learned from the sword spirits. Only then did he understand the terrifying and vast level of power that remained hidden within the primordial god Silk. The power was as tremendous as the oceans. However, Jian Chen could sense that the power did not seem to be very offensive at all. It only possessed a natural advantage over the evil spirit, and it was exactly because of this advantage that its gentle powers could bring great harm to the evil spirit. At the same time, Jian Chen could clearly sense that the tremendous power hidden within the primordial god Silk was being drained at a terrifying rate. Clearly, the primordial god Silk was consuming its power to deal with the powerful evil spirit outside, and it was consuming the power rapidly. The primordial god Silk won't be able to keep the crisis in check for long. We have to remove the threat before all of its power is used up. Jian Chen knew that time was tight. Without any deliberation, his consciousness returned to his own body after he refined the primordial god Silk. The primordial god Silk could deal with the crisis of the world, but the primordial god Silk was not necessarily able to eliminate it. He had learned from the sword spirits that there were times in history where the crisis of the world counterattacked and suppressed the primordial god Silk instead, ultimately destroying it and all the life in the world. Jian Chen could immediately sense that he had gained a connection with the primordial god Silk after sending his consciousness back to his body. At that moment, he seemed to feel that the primordial god Silk had become a part of himself as if it was his arm or leg. He could control it as he wished, except he had just refined the primordial god Silk, so he was still extremely unfamiliar towards the Silk's usage and control. However, it was also at this time that Jian Chen suddenly sensed an extremely great threat. The threat was not from Jian Chen but the primordial god Silk. The evil spirit seemed to have charged up all its power at that moment. Its blood-red mist had condensed into a 300-meter-tall figure and devastating energy pulsed wildly. The power was so great that Jian Chen's expression immediately changed drastically. The evil spirit had already finished charging up its strongest attack. It wanted to smash through the primordial god Silk's restraint in a single blow. Jian Chen obviously understood this. He knew that the evil spirit's attack was extraordinary from the sense of threat. Even though the primordial god Silk specialized in suppressing the evil spirit, this strike would bring devastating damage. Jian Chen bellowed out and utilized his connection with the primordial god Silk to control the power hidden within with great unfamiliarity, pushing the primordial god Silk to its peak power. Immediately, the primordial god Silk shone with dazzling light. It was as resplendent as the sun, illuminating the dark space. Under Jian Chen's control, the power within had all surged out, and the evil spirit's figure immediately began to disperse at a rapid rate under the glow. The primordial god Silk could display much greater power after Jian Chen refined it. However, Jian Chen could not lighten up at all because the sense of threat from the primordial god Silk did not lessen at all. Instead, it even grew in intensity. The Spirit King also sensed the devastating power being charged up in the evil spirit. His face changed. Without any hesitation, he immediately retreated as quickly as he could, shooting off into the distance in a split second. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion that could shake the entire universe erupted. The devastating power that the evil spirit had been charging up exploded loudly, rampaging through space as an unimaginably terrifying force. It destroyed and collapsed whole regions of space, reducing them to darkness. At that moment, the evil spirit had used a move akin to self-destruction. In order to break free from the primordial god Silk, it went as far as using all its power to explode with the greatest force it could display. If it did not take such action, it would not have been able to break free from the primordial god Silk. Not only was its power being eaten away under the restraint of the primordial god Silk, its ability to devour the essence of the universe was being suppressed as well. The primordial god Silk was like a tiny boat on the raging seas before the violent power. It began to tremble and shake as its golden light flickered. The power within it was being consumed at a shocking rate. Blood sprayed from Jian Chen's mouth, and he shot backwards like a cannonball. In the end, if the primordial god Silk had not blocked over 80% of the power, he probably would have died from the self-destruction of the evil spirit. Even though it was just less than 20% of the power, he still suffered extremely severe injuries. The primordial god Silk became dimmer and dimmer. After the devastating attack struck it, it only endured for a few seconds before snapping gently in the end. Its golden light was completely extinguished, and the violent power swallowed it. A huge black hole had formed in the center of the explosion. The energy in the surroundings churned as it shook up space. The black hole possessed a terrifying force of suction, swallowing up everything in its surroundings. It was also because of this black hole that the terrifying energy from the explosion did not expand much as the force of suction restrained it. Not only were a few neighboring asteroids and planets sucked off course and gradually approached the black hole, even all the planet that the Tianyuan continent was on, the two halves of the moon, and the sun slowly moved towards the black hole. The origin realm experts of the two worlds who had gathered just above the planet moved together. They controlled the god-slaying formation and produced a resplendent sword chi that shot off into the distance. It ripped through space and created a boundary between the planet and the black hole to stop its suction. The black hole was terrifying. It could devour everything, but their attack from the god-slaying formation neared godhood, so they could resist its power. Has the crisis been eliminated? Jian Chen stood in the distance as he bathed in radiant saint force. He stared ahead with a pale face. He still possessed a weak connection with the primordial god Silk. He knew it had snapped, but what he was truly worried about right now was the crisis. However, the existence of the black hole before them from the destruction of space prevented them from extending their souls over there, even though the suction was nothing to them. Dahahaha, it has finally been destroyed. Without that thing which suppresses my existence, how will the food resist me now? At this moment, a thought expanded and steeped through space. Red mist churned near the black hole. In a short while, it condensed back into the figure of the evil spirit. The black hole did not affect it at all despite their proximity. However, it was clearly weaker than before. Chapter 16:16. A bloody battle against the evil spirit. 6. Jian Chen's heart suddenly sank when the evil spirit's thought expanded. His face became extremely ugly. The evil spirit did not actually disperse after the terrifying explosion, and now that the primordial god Silk had snapped, how could he and the Spirit King face the evil spirit's power? But very soon, Jian Chen's eyes narrowed. He stared at the blood-red figure that stood near the gaping black hole. He could clearly sense that the evil spirit had become much weaker after the explosion that was similar to self-destruction. Jian Chen still felt a great threat from it, but it was no longer undefeatable like before. Jian Chen felt like the evil spirit was now an enemy he could realistically fight. Jian Chen's eyes immediately lit up. Under the recovery powers of the Radiant Saint Force and his chaotic body, Jian Chen healed at a rapid rate. However, he did not waste time continuing to heal. Before he had fully recovered, a surging presence radiated from his body. The twin swords shone brightly as well. He gripped the Ziying sword tightly with his bloodied hand and seemed to turn into a great sword himself. A violet light engulfed him, and he shot off as a stream of light, stabbing towards the evil spirit with lightning speed. As he rapidly approached the black hole, the force of suction grew more and more powerful. It could devour planets, light, and all energies and objects, but it was unable to devour Jian Chen or the light from the twin swords. With Jian Chen's strength, he could ignore the force of suction completely. No matter how closely he approached the black hole, he could break free easily. He was only at reciprocity, but his battle prowess had reached godhood, making him a godlike existence in the lower world. He was so powerful that he could shake the world and annihilate stars. At the same time, the Spirit King also noticed that the evil spirit had weakened. Without any hesitation, he charged towards the evil spirit with lightning speed as well. From afar, Jian Chen and the Spirit King seemed to have become two bright comets. The resplendent light from their swords filled outer space with color. They charged towards the huge hole in space with devastating power. Wherever they passed by, they would leave behind great cracks in space, creating a river of darkness. The evil spirit became angered when it sensed Jian Chen and the Spirit King's intentions. It roared out loudly. The roar turned into a thought that wreaked havoc through space. In its eyes, both Jian Chen and the Spirit King were only food. Since they were food, they should have waited for it to slowly enjoy them. Yet not only had the food weakened at such an extent, they had tried to resist time and time again. To the evil spirit, this was a naked provocation, something it could not accept. The evil spirit's humanoid figure suddenly dispersed and turned into a ball of dense red mist. The mist spun rapidly, drawing over all the essence in the surroundings. It did not just absorb the essence of the universe, but the energy in the surroundings as well. It had directly engaged in a fight against the black hole. Jian Chen and the Spirit King could sense their vitality become unstable as they rapidly shot over as well. It was like the whirlpool the evil spirit had formed was drawing their vitality from their bodies. The evil spirit possessed a natural ability of devouring. Without the restraint of the primordial god Silk, it demonstrated this ability once again. If the evil spirit was in its peak condition, Jian Chen and the Spirit King would fail to resist at all if it wanted to devour Jian Chen and the Spirit King's vitality. However, it had weakened drastically after exploding. Even though it had evaded death, its current strength near Jian Chen and the Spirit King's. As a result, it was extremely difficult for the evil spirit to devour both of their vitality. In the end, the devouring force failed to approach the two of them under their full resistance. Goddammit. It's all because that damned bastards made me consume too much power. If it weren't for him, I would have never ended up like this, where I can't even devour food. If I were in my peak condition, that damned presence would not have been able to do anything to me at all. The evil spirit roared out in resentment. As soon as it thought of that bastard, it would grind its teeth in hatred. A massive blood-red fist condensed when the evil spirit released a mental pulse, which shot towards Jian Chen and the Spirit King with devastating might. The fist was extremely large, and it engulfed the two of them as soon as it appeared. Linear lightning release. Jian Chen bellowed out and used the same technique again. Lightning immediately began to crackle around him, and his speed skyrocketed. He shot towards the blood-red fist as a bolt of lightning. This was one of the most powerful techniques he had grasped so far. However, it was so fast that even Jian Chen had to face some risks. After all, the huge black hole was right in front of him. As he moved so fast that he could not control himself, he could end up directly charging into the black hole if he was carelessness. However, he had no other choice. He could already see the evil spirit devouring energy to recover. He needed to personally stop the attack and let the Spirit King heavily injure the evil spirit. Otherwise, the evil spirit would be even more difficult to deal with once it recovered some strength. They might even end up losing their hope for victory. Boom! Jian Chen collided heavily with the blood-red fist. The electricity around him flickered a few times before dispersing completely. Jian Chen vomited blood. The attack had blown him away. His organs had turned to mush at that moment, and most of his bones had broken. He had already suffered heavy injuries, and this just worsened his condition. On the other hand, the blood-red fist began to collapse rapidly as well. Jian Chen had paid a heavy price to stop the evil spirit's attack. The collapse of the blood-red fist removed all obstacle before the Spirit King. He shot into the evil spirit's whirlpool as a resplendent stream of light. A will that splits the heavens. The sword extends and galaxies extinguish. The Spirit King's voice rang out from the evil spirit's whirlpool. His voice was sharp and swift, like an angry roar. There was a tinge of craziness within it, as well as tremendous pain that was evident to anyone. The blood-red whirlpool began to tremble violently. A blurry star chart seemed to have conjured within the whirlpool, erupting with endless power. It was utterly devastating, where just a single strand of its presence could cause annihilate large swathes of space. Chapter 16-17. A bloody battle against the evil spirit. 7. The whirlpool the evil spirit formed immediately began to collapse. Due to the immense might of the blurry star chart, most of the red mist directly dispersed, seemingly vaporized completely, making the red mist even thinner. At the same time, the presence of the evil spirit rapidly weakened. In the end, it seemed to have dropped below godhood. Even the gaping black hole countless kilometers in diameter trembled at that moment. Its suction began to wane, showing signs of collapse. The second move of the Spirit King's will that splits the heavens possessed extraordinary power. At the moment where the evil spirit had been at its weakest state, the Spirit King had dealt the heaviest strike possible, to the point where even the huge black hole next to the evil spirit seemed affected. The Spirit King had not grasped the second move completely, having used it forcefully this time. He had paid an extremely severe price, burning up 40% of his soul. He endured unimaginable pain. At the same time, Jian Chen dragged his injured body over. A dense layer of radiant Saint Force origin energy coated his body as he charged towards the evil spirit aggressively with the Ziying sword in hand. He was grievously injured, wounded to the point where if someone else possessed the same strength as him they would not be able to endure it. However, the eighth layer of the chaotic body gifted him with an extremely tenacious vitality and a tough body, so even with such wounds, he could continue fighting and demonstrate strength at godhood. Currently, the evil spirit extremely weak. It struggled to maintain its strength at godhood and seemed to be about to drop below that realm at any time. It immediately turned into a red mist to flee, and to no surprise, it fled towards the Tianyuan continent. There were countless lives on the Tianyuan continent. Just origin realm experts numbered in the several dozens. In the eyes of the evil spirit, it was a great, delicious feast. As long as it could devour them, it could recover some energy in a very short amount of time. Jian Chen stared at the evil spirit coldly as it flew towards the Tianyuan continent. Sensing the evil spirit's weakness, he immediately felt less unsettled. He did not immediately charge off towards the Tianyuan continent to support after a moment of deliberation. Instead, He used his vague connection with the primordial god Silk to identify its location. It hovered near the black hole. Although its powers had been severely drained, there was still a tiny sliver of it left, preventing it from being sucked into the dark hole. Jian Chen only rushed off to the Tianyuan continent after grabbing the primordial god Silk. The experts of the two worlds were completely battle-ready as they stood in outer space, forming two lines of defense. The Origin Realm experts stood at the very front with their god-slaying formation, while Shangguan Mu'er sat there sternly. Her zither was ready as well, placed across her knees. Behind them, the sainthood experts from the two worlds formed the second line of defense with their various formations. At this moment, the god-slaying formation began to shine, producing a powerful ripple of energy. The palm-sized scroll hovered in the air. Under the control of all the Origin Realm experts from the two worlds, it created a formation space to trap the approaching evil spirit. Strands of powerful sword chi condensed in the formation space, rushing towards the evil spirit from all directions. Each strand of sword chi possessed shocking strength. They were still rather weaker compared to attacks from Jian Chen and the Spirit King, but they still managed to reach the lowest levels of godhood. However, the god-slaying formation still failed to keep the weakened evil spirit trapped. The formation shook violently before erupting with a boom. The formation space collapsed, and the glow from the scroll dulled. The powerful ripples of energy had blown it away. The evil spirit charged out as a red mist, but it seemed even lighter in color than before. The evil spirit had destroyed the god-slaying formation in the blink of an eye, but the formation had shaved away at the evil spirit's power as well. However, the Origin Realm experts who took part in controlling the formation all vomited blood after being hit with a great backlash. At the same time, pleasant zither sounds suddenly appeared. It seemed like some otherworldly music to the ears of the experts from the two worlds, but when it reached the evil spirit's soul, it seemed to explode like roaring thunder, causing the evil spirit's soul to become unstable. Its consciousness actually wavered. With the music, visible musical notes shot towards the evil spirit like sharp swords in the form of ripples, causing the mist to tremble slightly. Some of the red mist immediately began to disperse from the sound attack. The red mist was the original form of the evil spirit as well as its core of power. The evil spirit's presence rapidly declined as the red mist dispersed. However, the evil spirit could only endure it silently right now, enduring its decline in strength as it directly charged for the Tianyuan continent. There was a lot of life on the Tianyuan continent. Even if it was in its peak condition, it still would feel tempted. It directly charged over from the depths of space regardless of the consequences. It was constantly being attacked and had become very weak now, but as long as it could devour the tremendous life forces present on the Tianyuan continent, it could recover in the shortest amount of time possible. It targeted the countless mortals who lived on the Tianyuan continent, as well as weaker cultivators. It did not plan to devour the Origin Realm experts. It could easily devour Origin Realm experts in its peak condition, but it was too weak now. Since all the Origin Realm experts had gathered together, it needed some time before it could devour them all. However, with Jian Chen's pursuit, there was just not enough time. As a result, it could only turn its eyes towards the weaker mortals and cultivators. Their lives could not be compared to the lives of Origin Realm experts, but it could effortlessly devour them. It could devour all of their lives to recover in a single moment. Boom! With the sound, the great formations the various sainthood experts of the two worlds erected began to clash with the evil spirit. However, they shattered in a single moment, and the evil spirit immediately expanded as red mist, enveloping over 100 saint emperors nearby and devouring their lives in a single moment. However, when it wanted to devour even more saint emperors, the evil spirit sensed that Jian Chen was shooting over in pursuit, so it could not help but pause. For some reason, its heart trembled when it discovered the snapped primordial god Silk in Jian Chen's hand. It no longer tried to devour the saint emperors in the surroundings and instead shot off towards the Tianyuan continent with lightning speed. It formed a huge whirlpool, and an extremely terrifying force of suction appeared, draining all the essence and presence of life from the surroundings. Immediately, all the vegetation in a radius of several 100,000 kilometers withered. The mountains and rivers all grayed, losing all signs of life. All the mortals in the surroundings instantly had their lives drained away from them. They were reduced to dried corpses. Following them were various cultivators, starting with saints and great saints. They all lost their life force as they passed away. Saint Masters, Great Saint Masters, and Earth Saint Master were next. In the blink of an eye, Countless people in the region were reduced to corpses. The Origin Realm experts in outer space watched on coldly. They chased behind the evil spirit with the god-slaying formation hurriedly. Countless people would die in the world every day, but countless children would be born as well. They did not care about the deaths of these people at all. Instead, they cared about the fact that these deaths would allow the evil spirit to recover, which they needed to stop. Jian Chen's face was extremely sunken. A layer of bright violet light shrouded him. He rushed towards the Tianyuan continent as quickly as he could. Chapter 16:18. Helplessness. The evil spirit possessed an extraordinary ability to devour. It had the innate ability to devour the energy of all things in the world. All the rivers and mountains lost their signs of life under the terrifying force of devouring. Large regions grayed, and in just a short moment, a radius of several 100,000 kilometers descended into a deathly silence. There were many kingdoms of various sizes and countless cities in that range, but everything instantly went quiet, including all the bustling streets throughout the cities and kingdoms. Countless mercenaries and merchants collapsed at the same time. All the life force and vital energies from their bodies had been drained, reducing them to cold corpses. These people had completely died soundlessly. They could not put up any resistance with their puny strength, and they were reduced to corpses in a single moment. They could not even react. Their faces even remained the same as before their deaths. Although Earth Saint Masters managed to last a little longer, they still could not avoid dying under the terrifying suction force. In just a few seconds, the force had drained away all the life in them. The evil spirit's range expanded and the devouring power became weaker as a result. It was able to instantaneously devour the lives of over 100 Saint Emperors because they were extremely close to him. However, now that it had expanded its range to hundreds of thousand kilometers away, its devouring force had obviously weakened drastically, allowing even Earth Saint Masters to last a few seconds. With that, the strands of vital energies and life force gathered from all directions before turning into a huge whirlpool completely composed of life force and vital essence. All of this fused into the evil spirit, so its presence gradually strengthened. Although the people it had devoured were very weak, it had devoured a vast quantity, completely reaching into the 100 millions, so it had reached the point where it was impossible to measure. It would be terrifying if the life force of so many gathered together. If it had enough time, the evil spirit would be able to recover a lot, even if it could not return to its peak condition. Everyone attack! We have to stop it! Shangguan Mu'er cried out. She was stern and began playing her zither with as much effort as she could. With her peak mid-reciprocity strength, she could not achieve much by fighting the evil spirit alone. She could only use her specialty and attack the evil spirit's soul using her music to achieve greater results. Attacks to the soul were profound and wondrous. They were extremely difficult to block. Experts from both worlds would be extremely pained when faced against soul attacks. They could only endure it forcefully, with no other alternative. The evil spirit was the same. Under Shangguan Mu'er's disturbance, its misty whirlpool immediately began to tremble. Although Shangguan Mu'er would not be able to injure the evil spirit's consciousness even with her full strength, she could slow down the evil spirit's rate of absorption with her music. The Origin Realm experts from the two worlds headed over as quickly as they could. However, a violet streak of light suddenly ripped through space and shot towards the evil spirit at a speed several times faster than them, surpassing them in an instant. Jian Chen had hurried back as quickly as he could from outer space. He stared at the evil spirit coldly as the twin swords hovered above his head. He held a strand of the primordial god silk in each hand, attempting to agitate the power hidden inside with all that he could muster. Immediately, the primordial god silk shone with golden light, except it was much dimmer than before. Swish! The strand of silk in Jian Chen's left hand shot out with lightning speed. It formed a massive golden net in the air and trapped the evil spirit, using its power to suppress the evil spirit's devouring ability. Meanwhile, the strand in Jian Chen's left hand became sharp like a sword and directly stabbed into the evil spirit's whirlpool. First, the evil spirit was enveloped by the golden net, causing its process of devouring to come to a halt. However, the primordial god silk was unable to suppress the evil spirit completely this time, so it only caused its devouring process to slow down. As the second strand of silk stabbed into the evil spirit like a sword, the whirlpool only shook a few times before returning to its previous state. Jian Chen's heart sank at the sight of this. Clearly, The snapped silk was no longer enough to deal with the evil spirit, even though some of its power still remained. Even with the evil spirit weakened so much, the threat that the primordial god silk posed was nowhere near the same as before. Dahahaha, I was right. Now that the thing that suppresses me is broken, it won't be able to harm me much at all. There's no need for me to fear it anymore. Sustenance, I'd like to see just how much longer you want to struggle. You will all be devoured by me. The evil spirit emitted a mental pulse. Jian Chen snorted coldly. Although the primordial god silk doesn't pose a great threat to you anymore, do not forget that there's me. As long as I exist, you won't be able to recover any strength at all. With that, the twin swords shot through the evil spirit as two streaks of light, causing the evil spirit's presence to weaken. Dahahaha, I am an indestructible existence. Food will never be able to kill me unless there's something that specially suppresses me. Even if I am rapidly weakening, I can recover just by devouring the essence in space. My powers are endless, while yours will only be consumed. Once you run out of energy, you will live up to your fate of being food. The evil spirit laughed aloud. Then it turned into a red mist, escaped from the net, and shot off into the distance. As it moved, the surrounding essence of the world rapidly gathered towards it. Jian Chen's face became ugly. Now that the primordial god silk had broken, its powers had weakened and had almost run out. It was nowhere near enough to keep the evil spirit completely trapped. Once the evil spirit recovered some strength, dealing with it would be extremely difficult. Don't you dare try recovering, Jian Chen said coldly before pursuing it immediately. Since a strand of primordial god silk was unable to keep it trapped, he used the two strands together. Under his control, the two strands fell onto the evil spirit as a huge net. Although the primordial god silk was unable to keep the evil spirit trapped, the evil spirit was unable to dodge it either, so it became wrapped up once again. The two strands wove together and immediately became even greater than before, but it was still not enough to keep the evil spirit trapped. It was only able to suppress the evil spirit's powers and only to a certain degree. The evil spirit let loose a strange laughter. It did not bother fighting Jian Chen and fled as mist once again. It was just too weak right now, so it was unable to kill Jian Chen if they fought. At the same time, it would become even weaker if it took on attacks from Jian Chen. It only wanted to devour plenty of lives right now. Once it recovered some strength, it would be able to kill Jian Chen. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.